Hello to all my dear followers and welcome to a new fanfic from the channel. Today I want to welcome you to the first season of What if Naruto discovered the secret of the shadow clones? If you want more seasons of these fanfics, just let me know with a like, comment and subscribe. So then, enjoy the fanfic.
Chapter 1. Naruto could admit that he was lots of things. Stubborn, hot-headed, and a bit of a loud mouth. But so too could he honestly say that he was willing to put in all the hard work necessary when needed. You didn't get to paint the Hokage monument after all without having some skill after all. That being said, after his sensei had dismissed his team early after another dull day of team training, Naruto really was beginning to think they were being shafted. They could sort of work together, sure, but they weren't learning anything. No jutsu, no skills, hell, even Dog Breath was talking about the awesome stuff his teacher was showing them. Not that he was into eavesdropping. Not at all. Frustrated and ready for the day to be over, Naruto shoved his hands in his jacket pockets and made his way home. Maybe old man Tucci would have a story or two for him. Course set for ramen, Naruto set off. The sun was still decently high in the sky and there was a good breeze that rustled through the trees around him. As he got into the village proper, he wanted to enjoy the outside as much as possible. Though with the looks the villagers sent his way as he started making his way through the crowd, that hope was dashed as well. Pulling his jacket tighter but keeping a wide smile on his face, Naruto focused on nothing else but hitting the ramen stand. Tucci had been around for a decent amount of time in this village, from the last war to the Kyuubi attack till now. He'd heard some crazy stories and served everyone from civilians to Hokages. That said, watching Naruto drag himself into his stand to sit with a bright but fake smile on his face never sat well with him. Already working on and preparing a miso ramen for the kid, he'd lend an ear just as he always did. "How's it going, Naruto? Another hard day of training, if you could call it that. I want to train, but Kakashi-sensei says training too much would be just as bad as not training enough." Secretly, Naruto got the feeling that Kakashi didn't want to train them at all. "Well, why don't you go train on your own then?" Ayam poked her head out from the back where she was preparing more broth, ever chipper and happy to see the young blonde. She was like an older sister Naruto never had. "That'd be great if I knew what to train in. Sure, I can work out for hours and hours, but that's it, and I can only do so much of that in one day. Why don't you get scrolls from the library? You're a genin now, aren't you?" Tucci mentioned offhandedly as he remembered several previous genin and Chunin mentioning the ninja library. I didn't think about it. While school hadn't been the greatest for him, as it was full of teachers who either saw a demon not worth training, or eventually a knucklehead who only wanted attention. No one had mentioned being able to go in the library once he was a genin. He had tried once while in the academy and been turned away, but maybe it'd be different now? Placing a bowl down and looking out at the high sun, the old proprietor nodded. "Maybe give it a shot. If your sensei is giving you lots of free time, maybe he's waiting for you to take some initiative." Tucci had seen it before. Nodding and already working on his first bowl, Naruto figured he could at least give it a shot. No matter what anyone thought of him, he could sit down and read when needed. He had learned the Kagebushin in a single night after all. Going over the idea some more, already downing and working on a second bowl now, Naruto nodded to himself and decided it was off to the library then. Watching the boy work through several bowls before laying down money and wishing them both a good day, Tucci had a smile on his face, as at least now the smile on the boy's face looked a little more genuine. Shaking himself and welcoming a team into his stand, he put it in his mind to check up on the boy next time he came by. Naruto, however, was all but sprinting through town, dodging through people and other ninja alike, as at the least he could either get this out of the way and get good news, or get rejected and spend the rest of the night working out and beating the crap out of a training post. Moving from the market district and coming up closer to the Hokage Tower, it wasn't much longer where along an unmarked red and tan building he found the library itself. High windows and a clean exterior, Naruto put faith in that hopefully things would be different this time. Pushing open the door and walking in, he was met with silence, with a heavy smell of paper and wood. There was a reception desk ahead of him, and ignoring the odd tingle that ran through him, he walked up to a stern-looking woman at the desk. Hello." His voice cracked at the worst time, and he really sounded more timid than he wanted to, but the woman looked him up and down all the same. First time in here, yes? Adjusting thin glasses while consulting a book on her desk, she pushed aside a scroll and looked at something out of his sight while Naruto nodded. Genin are allowed everything unrestricted D rank and below. C rank scrolls and books are allowed with either sensei or Hokage approval. Under normal circumstances, anything B rank and above is not allowed to genin outside of very special circumstances. Noise is to be kept to a minimum and there will be no jutsu practice inside. Training scrolls can be released, but copying of scrolls is out of the question. Looking at the boy in front of her, the older black-haired woman raised an eyebrow. Any questions? He had a ton for the tall but rail-thin woman, but decided to keep it to the basics for now. He was already happy enough that he would be allowed in. My sensei leaves me on my own a lot. Do you have an area for training scrolls? Nodding and motioning behind her and to her left, his right, she pointed down a dark hallway. Training scrolls for basic jutsu, chakra control, and jutsu theory are that way. Again, keep to your rank. Your Hitate was pinged as soon as you walked in. So we'll know if you pick something up that you aren't supposed to. Understand? Ah, that's why you didn't ask for my ID. Wait, what else did you ping? That was new. He didn't know they could ID him with just his headband. Blinking for a moment, the woman looked him over again before nodding. This is a protected building, so as soon as you walked through the door you were checked for jinjutsu, Hitate forgery, or cosmetic applications. Anything else? Shaking his head in the negative, Naruto walked past the reception desk and made his way down quiet rows of bookshelves and desks. There weren't many people in here today, it seemed, and the few that were present were all head deep in books or scrolls. Sakura probably comes here a lot. Muttering to himself, Naruto paid attention to the labels on the shelves he walked by. Training scrolls, training. Finding the section he wanted, he started browsing down the rows with carefully labeled scrolls and books. Realizing just how many there were, he decided to stick to what he kind of knew and work from there. He had already been warned he couldn't go straight for the high-level stuff, but maybe there were some D-level scrolls that could help him out. Walking further down this particular row and finding the D-rank training scrolls and seeing multiple copies of everything, Naruto browsed a bit before picking out four that might be able to help him out. It didn't take him nearly as long to reach the front desk again, where he presented the scrolls to the bookkeeper. Can I take these? Taking the scrolls and looking them over, the woman nodded. Chakra control, clone theory, and basic exploding tag seals? Boys and their explosions. Looking him over again, she handed them back. If I may ask, why the clone theory? Caught off guard as he wasn't prepared for anyone to be interested in his actual thoughts, he let a small grin hit his face. I've never been able to make normal clones, but I can make shadow clones. So I wanted to see if maybe there was a reason why. Wait, you can make shadow clones? At Naruto's nod, the woman frowned. If you would, show me please. Shrugging and putting the scrolls back on the desk, Naruto formed the cross-shaped seal and pumped chakra into it. With a puff of smoke, there stood a dozen copies, along with the appearance of several ninja with frantic looks. Tanaka-san, is everything okay? Waving the group off, the now named Tanaka nodded. Everything is fine. I asked him to demonstrate his skill. Please, go back to your duties. Sighing as the group of 5 elder ninja blurred away, the librarian sighed and handed all the scrolls back to Naruto. Some advice, if you would like it? Naruto nodded. Sure. Dispelling his clones, he was absolutely ready to get out of here. Did your teacher mention the special skill of the shadow clones? Or did you learn this on your own? On my own. Then no one has probably mentioned to you, but shadow clones have the special ability of sharing information. Anything a clone learns, you'll learn once they are dispelled. That also includes chakra control and techniques. Just something to keep in mind. Giving the genin an appraising eye, she would have to make a visit to an old monkey once her shift was over today. Suddenly learning that his one good skill was even more super awesome than he thought, Naruto was beaming as he bowed to the woman who actually took some time to teach him something. Thanks, Tanaka-san. When do I need to have these scrolls back? Waving the boy away, she was already turning back to her work with a smile on her face. Those are D-rank scrolls. Keep them as long as you need, but usually we'd like them back within a month. But if you do lose or damage them, it isn't such a big deal. At least the boy was polite, she noted as he waved and ran out the door. Naruto was only focused on one thing at the moment though, and that was that he had the chance to do something finally. He would be training properly now. Oh, he was going to be busy this week for sure. Kakashi was a lot of things he knew, a pervert, lazy, constantly lost. But he generally always had an idea of what he was getting himself into. That said, today, as he strolled into practice at his usual 3 hours late, he was met with an odd sight. Sasuke was fuming, which normally wouldn't be that odd, but it wasn't directed at him, which was. Sakura was fawning over Sasuke, which wasn't new, so that he could ignore. But multiple copies of Naruto running up and down trees while hopefully the real one was doing push-ups with a rock on his back was not something he expected to see. Seeing though that everyone was here, Kakashi clapped his hands with an eye smile. All right everyone, let's get to our mission for the day. Kakashi-sensei, you're late. Sakura was as always, predictable. Clones popping and shrugging off the rock. A sweating Naruto jogged up to the group. About time, sensei, what are we doing today? Motioning for the kids to follow him, Kakashi pulled out his favorite book, the usual, another D-rank mission, followed by team drills. Then you're off on your own. The 3 genin following along behind him, Sasuke in the middle with Sakura and Naruto on either side of him, they made their way to the tower. Sasuke had his hands deep in his pockets while Sakura continued to pester him over some gossip overheard by Ino and the village busybodies. Naruto had his arms crossed behind his head while he walked, for once not inclined to bother the pinkette. He had trained all night at their training ground before passing out, then waking up and starting up again before anyone else had shown up. At first he had started with clone theory, sure that somewhere in the scroll he might find the secret as to why he couldn't do a basic clone. But after reading through it all, the answer wasn't any better than he already had a feeling for. It all came down to control that he didn't have. Sure, he could pump chakra for days, but even he knew that he used way too much. So instead that had moved him to chakra control exercises. He ignored the simple ones that explained holding leaves to parts of his bodies and instead moved on to harder ones. That was what he worked on all night, and this morning, the tree climbing. Using chakra to stick to solid surfaces sounded super useful, both for ninja stuff and for pranks. So he trained and trained, dispelling clones after so long to learn what they knew and creating new ones to continue the process. The first thing he learned was that dispelling too many clones all at once was a quick way to guarantee a big headache for himself. So for now, he limited himself to groups of 20 or less. Maybe as he got better, he'd be able to do more at once? The ideas were already churning in his head. Already at the mission collection desk and retrieving their mission for the day, Kakashi was doing his best to ignore the distracted and muttering Uzumaki. While he was happy at least one of his students was taking initiative, being truly distracted wasn't a good thing. He'd have to clue the kid in on how to keep at least partial attention to his surroundings. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Is there anything else? Yes, actually. Naruto-kun, could you stay for a moment? The elderly ninja was decked out in his white and red Hokage robes today, hat firmly planted on his head. To either side of him, Chunin assistants were helping sort and distribute missions along with him. Feeling Kakashi nudge him and break his train of thought, Naruto came out of his daze to see that they were already at the tower. What's that? Chuckling and shaking his head. Stay behind, Naruto. I need a word with you. Watching the boy nod, Kakashi steered Sasuke and Sakura away. We'll be just outside, Naruto. We're after Tora again today. Without another word, the masked ninja moved to guide his students out the door, turning his now full attention to the elder Hokage. Naruto put his hands in his pockets and grinned. What's up, old man? Ready to recognize my greatness? Sighing at Naruto's antics, Sarutobi shook his head. No, Naruto. Though I did get some news yesterday. You showed off your clone technique at the library, yes. While not exactly against the rules, the employees there were very nervous with any jutsu used within their halls. Yeah. Am I in trouble for that? Tanaka-san asked me to show I could do it after all. While it wouldn't have been the first time someone had tricked him in order to make him look bad, it really would suck if the librarian was someone who would be on the hate Naruto train. No, but I have something for you. Handing over a small but sealed scroll to the boy who took it without a word and backed away, the Hokage nodded. I'm giving you access to C-rank chakra control exercises and clone theory only. Nothing more. Considering your position, I thought it might help you to get ahead on those subjects. Nothing else for now, understand? I can revoke your access and make you wait until Chunin like everyone else at any time. Giving the boy a stern look, his weathered skin pulling in a way that made Naruto shake his head quickly. No way, just what you've told me I can look at and nothing else. I'll be good. Not wanting to give up this good fortune, Naruto pocketed the scroll and saluted. Anything else, old man? Waving the boy off as the next team was walking in. Sarutobi shook his head. Be on your way then, and I'll be watching you. Leaving the boy with that cryptic message, the aging man watched as Naruto turned and jogged out of the room. Outside was bright, and while Naruto didn't have to look hard to find his team, somehow everything felt better today. Sorry, I'm here now. Seeing his teacher nod, they all turned to complete their turn of hunting down the dreaded demon cat of Konoha. Chapter 2. Today found Team 7 early in the morning and waiting for their errant sensei to show up from wherever his latest excuse put him this time. Sasuke had taken to following Naruto's example but was training his great fireball technique, while Naruto's clones were again continuing chakra control exercises on the trees. Naruto himself was doing something that even had Sakura trying to puzzle him out. And that? Naruto had a scroll open and was repeatedly writing something down. Around him were another dozen clones doing the same. Walking over to stand over one of them, Sakura tilted her head and the vaguely familiar scrawl. What's that, Naruto? Not looking up from what he was doing, Naruto, or a clone of him at least, continued his work while answering his crush, trying to make exploding tags. Confused as to why he would go through that effort at all, Sakura stood up straight with her hands on her hips. Couldn't you just buy a bunch of those? Why learn how to make them? That's what everyone else did after all, and they worked just fine. Deciding explaining to the girl that some shops still didn't want to sell things to him, and that it would be dumb expensive if he was able to buy the amount he needed for what he had planned, he instead went with a more bookish answer. If I learn how to make them, I can make traps with them besides just using paper bombs. Nodding at the actual thoughtful answer, Sakura walked away. If you say so, I think you're just wasting your time. Sasuke could just blow everyone away with his fireball anyway. Strutting away from the loudmouth blonde, Sakura's curiosity was sated for now. Yatta, think I got it. One of his clones, or maybe that was the real Naruto, began putting some chakra into the seal he made on a scrap of paper in his excitement. Wait. Not so close, you idiot. Another Naruto cried out while a more aware clone grabbed the now freaking out copy holding the paper tag by the jacket. Sorry, buddy. Heaving and tossing the clone up and over the trees, the explosion sent a blast wave that rocked the training ground and knocked leaves from the trees above them all. All movement and training stopped with Sasuke and Sakura turning irritated looks at the nervously grinning blonde. I did it? We can see that, you knucklehead. Sakura was always quick to show off her impressive lungs. Naruto noted. Dope. Going back to his own training, Sasuke put the blonde out of his mind. He could train all he liked, but an Uchiha would always be better than him. Shrugging while sorting through the memories, Naruto dispelled his tag-making group before remaking a new one. Alright guys, practice makes perfect. And if you make a tag, run off a bit before setting it off, okay? Hi! Getting a chorus of responses, they all set to work. This was what Kakashi walked into this morning. A disgruntled Sakura and slightly exhausted Sasuke watching as a procession of Narutos ran off towards the lake only to explode in spectacular fashion. Shaking his head and clapping his hands together, Kakashi got everyone's attention. Sorry everyone, a black cat tried to cross my path, so I had to find a new route where I ran into this snake that tried to bite me. But I'm here now, liar. Sakura and for once even Sasuke joined in on her finger pointing. That couldn't bode well for him, could it? Mama. Come on now. Let's go get our mission and we'll end early for today, any? Smiling as his cute students all formed up before him, they all turned and started heading for the tower. Naruto idly dispelled his clones while pocketing his seal-making tools in his thigh pouch. Before making his now very familiar seal and creating an even larger group of clones that ran back to the training ground. Kakashi raised an eyebrow and watched the clones run off. What's that about, Naruto-kun? I have something of a project I wanted to try out, but I can't do it with everyone at the training ground. It's not having to answer as an explosion rocked the area and everyone turned to look at the Uzumaki sharply. Hehe. Explosions are cool. Sighing and turning away, Kakashi nodded. Just don't overdo it, okay? We need you all in one piece, not scattered all over the Fire Nation. It wasn't long after that the team had all made it to the tower, picked up their next lackluster mission, and were on their way to the east side fields to help with some weeding for civilian farmers. All of the genin wanted to complain, but after their first few attempts, and Naruto getting swatted for trying to use clones, they all relented and got to work. Sakura had already given up on keeping her dress clean, eventually covered up to the knees in dirt and grass. Sasuke and Naruto weren't much better after long, though somehow Naruto shivered from time to time, which Kakashi figured was a clone exploding and sending its memories back to him. Shrugging at the teenager's antics, Kakashi returned to his book and watched as the sun rose past noon and slowly began to sink in the sky. The more experienced ninja mentally lamented that it was probably too much to ask for every day to be this peaceful. But at least these kids didn't have to go through what he and his team did. At least not if he could help it. The day coming to an end on its own, the team reported their mission complete and went their separate ways. Sakura trying to follow Sasuke home and pester him for a date, and Naruto now heading back to the training field instead of going to his empty apartment. It was as he returned to the now empty training ground and sat down in the middle of it that he pulled a new training scroll from his pocket to begin reading. After getting the go-ahead from Gigi, he had made it a point to return his last set of scrolls and left with only 2 new ones. A book on basic seals where he was working on the first set of his exploding tags, and a scroll about the Shunshin. He hadn't realized that the jutsu was only a D rank, but after reading the description on it, he sort of got it. Sure, he could move really fast and appear wherever he could see or knew, but it left him open for a moment if he wasn't prepared. However, if he had a clone do it, that vulnerability became a mood issue, especially if the clone was supposed to be caught. Reading and memorizing the scroll over the next half hour, Naruto stashed it away before filling the clearing with clones. All right, we have all night. Let's get this technique down pat by morning. Yash! It was going to be a long night for the boy. Contrary to what his students thought, Kakashi wasn't always the late one to team meetings. In fact, he was usually the first. He liked to watch them, see if they were in fact there on time or slacking off. While at first he had been worried as they did nothing but wait for him for hours on end, he was slightly proud that at least one of them had started taking the time to start training on his own. Though now as he looked at an exhausted but snoring Uzumaki, Kakashi felt he should probably step in this once. Hopping from the trees and walking over to a battered but whole Naruto, his sensei squatted down to shake the boy by his shoulder. Naruto, wake up. The ground isn't your bed. NGH, 5 more minutes, Kakashi-sensei. I promise I dash. It took a moment for Naruto to wake up slightly and another one to realize he wasn't at home again. Bleary eyes opened to an eye-smiling sensei and a just past dawn training ground. Looking around and seeing his teammates not around, Naruto let his head thump heavily on the dirt. I overdid it, didn't I? Nodding and standing up straight, Kakashi sighed. You did. Do you think you're up for a mission today? Standing slowly with a groan and stretching to work out the kinks in his muscles, Naruto nodded with slowly building enthusiasm. I'll run off and get some morning ramen, and I'll be good to go. Already turning to leave, he was forced to pause as Kakashi stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. All right, wait a minute, time to be a sensei for a minute. Sit down and listen to me. All right? Watching the boy do just as he asked, listening to the stern tone for once, Kakashi nodded in approval. I have new training rules for you, and I expect you to follow them. Got it? Come on, sensei. I'm fine, honest. Finally feeling like he was catching up, the attention-starved boy didn't want to slow down now. I'm not going to tell you to stop training, but no more all-nighters. You need to be in bed by 10, and you can't be at the training ground before 7 unless it's for a mission. Got it. Seeing the boy give a dejected nod, he continued. You have to give your body and your mind time to rest and heal. You won't make good progress if you don't. Also, after missions and training with the team, you need to give yourself at least 2 hours of downtime before starting up your evening training. Got it? You need more than just ninja training in your life. That was a lesson Kakashi had learned too late, but he could pass on that bit of life lesson to the boy. Fine, fine, I'll tone it down. Anything else? I'm glad you asked. Opening a storage seal behind his back, Kakashi presented a basket full of fruits and vegetables. With the amount of training you're doing, ramen isn't enough. We need to balance out your diet. I know you haven't had someone to explain nutrition to you, but you're going to be a shorty forever if you don't start eating better. Plus, you'll never put on any muscle either. Get it? Even more dejected but willing to listen to his sensei that actually seemed to be trying for once. Naruto nodded one last time. Okay, I'll start eating better. Trying to at least. He hadn't said ramen was out, just that he needed to eat other stuff too. Good, now off you go. I don't want to see you back here for at least 2 hours. Plus, Kakashi figured, it'd irritate his other 2 students to see Naruto late as well. They needed to relax some, ignoring his sensei as he pulled free his pervy book and disappeared into the trees. Naruto himself made a half-ram sign and disappeared into a swirl of leaves, basket in hand. Not more than a few moments later, Naruto was walking through his front door with a yawn and a frown. Guess I gotta eat some cruddy rabbit food and take a quick nap before heading back. His stomach deciding to grumble loudly in that moment. He would admit that he was hungry enough to ignore the fact that what he had wasn't ramen. That didn't mean he couldn't grab a quick snack on the way back to the team meeting. Thought in mind, Naruto set about putting his basket of groceries on the table before heading to his room to shower and change. It wouldn't do to show back up smelling like one of the Inuzuka dogs after all. After cleaning up and changing into a new outfit, he was back to making a quick breakfast of eggs and toast, with some added vegetables from what his sensei had graciously given him. Complain he would, but he wouldn't waste food. Ever. Carefully folding his eggs into a neat omelet, he placed everything on a plate on his table before putting the dirty pan back on the stove. Not as carefully as he should have, as some hot oil splashed out and into the still-going flame. Shutting the flame off and patting out the small fire with his jacket, Naruto had to groan at the singed sleeve of his coat. Already knowing he wasn't about to put his dirty jacket back on, he ripped this one off and decided today was a t-shirt day. Putting the rest of his gifted groceries away in his fridge and scarfing down his quickly made breakfast, it wasn't even an hour later before he was headed back out of the door and towards the Ichiraku's stand. A spare black jacket now over his shoulders and open, showing his black t-shirt with red Uzumaki swirl on the front. Tucci was only just opening up and warming up the stoves and grills, while a clearly energetic Naruto was already bursting through the door with a smile. Hey there, old man. How about a couple bowls of miso before I join my team for training? Shaking his head with a chuckle, Tucci motioned around the early morning emptiness of the shop. We've only barely opened, Naruto, so no ramen yet, but I think I can put together some onigiri instead. How about it? Seeing the dejected look the boy put on, he eventually smiled and nodded anyway. Good. Give me just a minute. Next to him, Ayam smiled at the younger blonde and leaned on the bar. Hey there, Naruto. Liking the new look? Trying something new? While he still had his usual orange pants, the black shirt and jacket combo seemed to even it out a tad. It was kinda cool, she thought. Ah, yeah, that's it. Trying a different look. He wasn't going to admit to burning his spare jacket. Any good news or rumors to share? Shaking her head as her dad came back with a plate of 3 carefully made rice balls, Ayam sighed. Not really anything interesting. Though check with me later. You know, I usually have something after lunchtime. Nodding and stuffing one ball in his mouth while leaving his pay and a tip on the counter, Naruto waved to them as he was already out of the door with the other 2 in his hands. Already at a light jog, he took a little more time to finish the last 2 rice creations while appreciating the sleepy morning atmosphere of the village. While the sun was low and not many people were out, it was easy to forget that people weren't that happy to have him here in the village, and some were more than happy to see him dead. Gripping his shirt over where the seal for the QB was, Naruto directed some anger at the beast. If it hadn't attacked when it did, maybe his life would have been more normal. Maybe he would have had parents. Shaking himself out of that thought, as that only lead to sadness and pain, Naruto instead resolved to make sure today was a great day. Of course, as he made it to the training ground, sun now slightly higher in the sky, the look Sakura was giving him had him feeling like his day was already doomed. Where have you been? How could she be so loud first thing in the morning? Kakashi-sensei isn't here yet, so technically not late. As a forever prankster and skirter of the rules, Naruto lived in the technicalities of life. Well, whatever. Just don't slow us down. Sasuke-kun can't watch out for you too. While she assumed Sasuke would protect her if anything happened, both boys knew that wasn't going to happen, for one reason or another. Hi. Sasuke good. Naruto bad. I got it, Sakura. For some reason not feeling up to appeasing the loud Haruno so early this morning, Naruto started his normal routine and created a horde of clones. Maybe they could start on water walking today? Slightly put off by the change in the boy's attitude, but not enough to actually say anything, Sakura sat back under a tree and went back to reading. While the boys had taken to training while waiting for their sensei, she was content to read a book in her spare time. Sasuke hadn't even batted an eye as Naruto showed up, nor flinched as the horde of clones got to work with equal parts tree climbing and working on exploding tags. Though one thing was different this morning. Naruto himself had unrolled a truly long blank scroll, and had himself plus a dozen others all covering every inch of it in seals. Shaking his head as the dobe was going to blow himself up one day, he returned to his own training on increasing the heat of his signature jutsu. And this was what their sensei walked in on. Sakura reading and not paying attention to the world around her. Sasuke exhausting himself practicing his family's main technique, and Naruto finishing on something in a scroll and now working it into some type of bracelet. Clapping his hand, all eyes were suddenly on him. No mission today, so we'll do some team drills for a few hours and call it a day. Clones dispersing and almost fully energized. Naruto was ready and able. All right, we're gonna get you today, sensei. They would not, however, get even close to Kakashi. But tomorrow would be a new day, and who knew, miracles happen sometimes. Chapter 3. Trying to be understanding but still ending up grumpy. A bored Naruto Uzumaki wandered the streets of Konoha. Today was like any other, training before Kakashi-sensei had shown up, work on some of his basic jutsu, and then head out for a D-rank mission before finishing and coming back for training. Except instead of training, they were told explicitly to relax and take the rest of the day off, which meant very loud and clear that if their sensei caught any of them training Naruto, they'd be in for a world of trouble. With a sigh, Naruto understood that in his own way Kakashi wanted to make sure they weren't wearing themselves out. With a chuckle, Naruto figured Sakura didn't have to worry about that at all, but him and Sasuke might. Shaking it off and spotting a shop full of plants, he figured he could at least get a small bag of fertilizer for his houseplants while he was out. It wouldn't do to neglect his housemates after all. Walking in and taking in the heady, humid smell of plants and earth, he was overcome with peace for just a moment. Welcome to the Yamanaka nursery. What can I help you with? A bored voice answered from the counter. Face down in a fashion magazine, Ino Yamanaka in all her pretty blonde glory was manning the counter. Naruto hadn't seen the girl since the end of the academy but hoped her usual antics weren't about to come out to play. Hey Ino, where do you guys keep your fertilizer? Deciding to get what he came for and leave quick, he made his way to the counter. Looking up and spotting the loud troublemaker, Ino had to pause for a moment at the different look of the boy. The open black jacket and black tee wasn't a big change, but it was significant enough to give her some pause and made her give the boy a quick once-over. You're not gonna use it for a prank, are you? Still wary, even if he seemed to be taking things a little more serious if the change of his wardrobe was an indication. She still had to make sure his usual antics didn't come back to her parents' shop. No, I have some house plants that need a little love, that's all. No pranking, honest. Hoping the girl believed him, as he actually hadn't had time for pranking since the end of the academy. Well, except for that short time meeting Konohamaru and training him in the sexy no jutsu. Ha! Giving the boy another good once-over. A small thought gracing her mind, she nodded and pointed off to her left. Along the back wall in the corner, next to the indoor aloe plants, giving thanks and making his way between rows and rows of plants, Naruto was curious about what his former classmate had been up to. How's training going? Learn anything awesome from your sensei? Realizing she should have known she wouldn't be able to get back to her magazine, Ino snorted when she thought about her sensei. Heck no. Asuma sensei is too laid back for that. We're training sure and he works us through drills, and don't get me started on the D ranks. Such a bore. Ugh. And I've got the laziest teammates ever. Naruto tuned out her ranting about Shikamaru and Choji, Knowing the laid-back boys were probably getting nagged to death, Naruto found what he was looking for and snagged a small bag. Turning and glancing at the aloe plants, Naruto saw and read the small note attached to the base of the plant. "Hey Ino, what's this about the aloe plant being a good chakra conductor?" Pausing mid-rant about not being able to cloud watch for hours on end, Ino had to think about what the boy was asking her. Shaking her head, "Hold on," and moving around the counter, Ino walked around until she found Naruto kneeling next to a row of plants while delicately examining the thick leaves. Kneeling down next to him and turning the plant towards her, her dad's description came to her. "Oh yeah, apparently this particular variety of aloe vera has a sap that conducts chakra really well. Dad says that coating twine or thinner string with the stuff lets you use it in place of actual chakra thread, and a lot less chakra taxing too." Thinking about it, Naruto had another idea for it if it could conduct chakra. "Think you could draw a seal with it?" "Well, I don't see why not." Not seeing where he was going with this, Ino just shrugged while the boy turned to look at her. Were his eyes always so deeply blue? Well, coughing and taking the small bag of fertilizer and one of the medium-sized aloe plants, Naruto stood and grinned. "I've got an idea then. Might not come to anything, but never hurts to try." Turning away from the pretty jade-eyed girl, Naruto started walking to the counter. Bouncing her way back to the counter, Ino held a grin on her face. "Well, as long as it doesn't lead to pranks, I'm all for it." Ringing him up quickly and handing him a receipt, Ino nodded. "Thanks for the business, and make sure to tell Forehead that just cause she's on his team doesn't mean I've given up yet. Love was war after all." "Sure thing, Ino-chan, and thanks again." Giving her a carefree smile and a wave, Naruto was out the door, missing the blushing girl give him a half-wave in return before the glass door closed behind him. Deciding that maybe the other blonde could be cute if he wanted, but still not close to her Sasuke-kun, she returned back to her magazine for the day. Outside, it was a carefree Naruto that was already on his way home. Sure, he wasn't supposed to be training, but that didn't mean he couldn't experiment. Chakra conducting meant he could probably write seals with it, and that meant more ways to make exploding notes. But because the sap was only slightly sticky, he needed a way to produce the seal fast and the same way every time. Maybe he could coat his hand with it? But then his hand would explode too, not a good idea. Thinking hard all the way home, he missed a lavender-eyed Hyuga eyeing him from around the corner. Having watched him leave the Yamanaka shop and observed the blushing Ino, there was a worrisome conclusion being made behind those eyes. Jumping as Naruto disappeared in a shunshin, she decided it would probably be best to think about things at home. Plant in front of him on his kitchen table along with several scrolls and now 3 other clones besides himself, Naruto thought about his problem long and hard. The sap itself is conductive, but so it's sealing ink. It's not like we need it to make tags. True. Plus the sap is sorta runny. It wouldn't hold the form for long or anything. One of the clones had made a slight incision on a leaf, allowing the sap to bubble out slightly. But you can only make a seal tag so big. Sure wish we could pack more of them into a smaller space. Sure, they could seal multiple tags or make a paper bomb with exploding tags, but that was obvious and avoidable. Wait! Naruto himself snapped his fingers and pulled out one of his sealing training scrolls. Wasn't it in this scroll that they described a way of making supermassive seal matrices super small by packing the matrix within another chakra-conductive paper scroll? Something about needing the chakra to stabilize the matrix for use. Unrolling the scroll and sifting through it in order to find what he was looking for, it was another clone over his shoulder that pointed to the section they were looking for, written by one Kushinayu. Well, that's what it says. Ooh, I get it. Maybe we can seal the very exploding matrix inside the sap itself. Yeah. And then we could put the sap anywhere. Naruto himself had a wide grin on his face. How about a mile-long seal packed into a kunai or even inside a small pellet? Yeah, this was definitely going to be fun. It'd take him a long time to work on to be the size he wanted. But this was for explosions, and explosions were always worth the extra work. Pulling out his tools and beginning to write, it was going to be a long night for him and a hard start early morning. Team 7 was waiting patiently as it was coming up on their turn to receive their mission for the day. It had been another few days, and while training was great, at least Naruto and Sasuke both were starting to get antsy. So when they came forward and Irika started naming off more D-rank missions, Naruto finally had enough and said as much. Come on, Gigi. We've been training our butts off and working these chores like no one's business. Let's have a real mission for once. Missing the nod from an agreeing Sasuke and flatly ignoring a protesting Irika, Naruto was ready to match wills with the aging Hokage. So your team feels like they're ready for a real mission, Watching the subtle nod from Kakashi, Sarutobi sighed before pulling a scroll from the pile. Well, you're in luck today. We just so happen to have an escort mission available. C rank, good to get your feet wet. Handing the scroll over to Kakashi, the Hokage cleared his throat. Tsunade-san, your team is here. From a door off to the side, an elderly man sporting a gray head of hair and matching beard stumbled into the room. From the smell of alcohol, no one had to guess what was in the jug he had with him. Looking through his glasses at the team, Tsunade scoffed. What's this? I ask for a team and they give me brats? I'm the great Tsunade, the bridge builder. Don't I deserve some actual ninja? Chuckling and waving them all away, the Hokage smiled. I'm sure for just an escort mission these genin will be more than enough. You'll find they're full of surprises. Watching as Kakashi led a grumbling Tsunade away, Sarutobi's eyes hardened only slightly. Outside, it was an eye-smiling Kakashi who turned to his team. Go ahead and head home. Pack for an extended mission and meet me at the main gate in 30. And with that, Kakashi wandered away with their client while Naruto and the others quickly split up to pack and prepare. For Naruto, this involved a quick body flicker back to his home, grabbing his pack and sealing scrolls before sealing everything into a medium-sized storage scroll. Idly twirling it in his hand before shoving it into an inner pocket on his new jacket, he took some extra time to make a quick sandwich to scarf down. Having some time to think, he was still lamenting he hadn't had time to fix his old jacket yet, but he figured after this mission he'd finally get a new one. Orange was his favorite color after all. Taking one last look around his apartment, only pausing here and there to water his plants and say goodbye, Naruto was out the door in a flurry of leaves with only a few moments to spare. Appearing not far from the gate with a bright grin, Kakashi and the other members of Team 7 were waiting for him. A screech dying on her lips, Sakura pointed at Naruto. Since when do you know the Shunshin? He hadn't been using it at the training ground, and it wasn't like she paid attention to him after team missions either. Scrubbing his head with an odd look, again a little bummed that his crush barely paid any attention to him at all, Naruto shrugged. For a while? It's a D rank and the lady at the library was super cool about helping me find the training scroll for it. Granted, it might have been so she could get him in and out of the library faster. He couldn't keep quiet for long after all. Trying hard not to laugh at the mental image of Naruto in a library and figuring he was bluffing, Sakura scoffed and turned away. You know, I'm sure Kakashi-sensei would be pretty bummed if you were getting training from another sensei. You shouldn't lie. There was no way the dead last knew something even her Sasuke-kun didn't after all. And since he didn't know Shunshin yet, she knew their teacher hadn't thought to train them with it yet. Feelings taking a mental slap and then some, Naruto stuffed his hands in his pockets and formed up behind everyone. Kakashi leading the charge, Naruto was only slightly looking forward to the mission at this point. On the other side of their client, Sasuke was looking at him with a calculating look, but didn't say much. But beyond their slow start, Team 7 started their journey to Wave, enjoying the bright blue sky and peaceful trees outside of the village proper. Naruto had never been outside of the village before, outside of a few times when he was younger and had been run off from the orphanage. The road currently was nice and peaceful so far at least. Sakura wasn't paying all that much attention, mentally planning how she could somehow share a tent with her love interest, while said love interest was trying to pay attention and scan the road as per their mission while being bored out of his mind. After about 15 minutes of walking and cresting a hill, Naruto took note of a puddle in the middle of the road. Looking up again at the clear sky and warm sun just to make sure, he again puzzled out what was niggling at the back of his mind. Kakashi-sensei didn't seem bothered. Then again, he never seemed bothered, nose deep in his book. Sakura was a lost cause and Sasuke seemed to be doing his best to ignore the girl. And then it clicked. It hasn't rained in weeks. Subtly making a clone and switching with it at the tree line just in case, Naruto figured the others had already seen through the illusion and made similar plans. In the darkness of the tree line, as their group and his doppelganger finally passed the puddle, Naruto was ready to admit that maybe his prank senses were letting him down. At least until two men poofed out from the puddle, wrapping Kakashi-sensei in chains and tearing him apart. Knowing that if he could see through that lame illusion, then his sensei for sure was fine, Naruto made ready to jump back into the fray if his clone failed its task. Look at that Gozu, their sensei was quick to put down. The first ninja bearing a horned Hittite gloated. That just leaves the brats to clean up Meizu. Lunging forward, the second horned ninja wasn't fully prepared for the previously frozen blonde to charge forward, attempting to tackle and hold Gozu around the waist. Ha 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 ha. Give it up, kid. You're 100 years too early to take me down. Seals around his wrist glowing unnoticed to Gozu. The Naruto clone grinned. It's been a blast. Katsu. And then there was fire and light. What Naruto never thought to take into account as he made several hundred feet worth of explosive seals along a scroll and wove it all into a bracelet, was that each tag could and would build upon each other as they were chained together. So while a normal exploding tag alone may take off a limb or partially singe a more experienced and prepared ninja, this more exponentially powerful seal array would only feed back in on itself by a much stronger value. End result? A 10-foot wide and 3-foot crater was instantly dug into the road where Gozu used to exist. Meizu was also almost immediately tossed like a rag doll into the trees, spine snapping where he was tossed first into and then through the first tree that tried to arrest his momentum. When he finally did come to a stop several dozen meters away, he would mercifully already be unconscious. Not that he had any chance of returning to ninja duties ever again between the burns, spinal damage, and multiple broken bones. Back on the street, the shockwave had been enough to toss Sakura and Sasuke both several feet, while Kakashi had thought it prudent to shun Shin away with Tsunade once he saw Naruto enacting his own plan. Kakashi would have to lecture Naruto on restraint in the future, but privately he was proud that the kid was taking this seriously. Though, as he walked back onto the road with their very shaken client, he still had to chuckle at the overkill. Leaping from the trees with a grin on his face, Naruto made several clones to go find the other enemy ninja. Holding a thumbs up to Kakashi, he was completely proud of himself. All right, score one for Team 7. Cackling like a madman, he never saw the punch that tossed him into the ground. What the hell was that dope? You could have killed all of us with that. Of all the stupid, ignorant, useless Sakura was building herself up for a long rant before Kakashi stepped in with a hand on her shoulder. Mama. First, before you berate him, Naruto-kun, please explain your reasoning. To Kakashi, this was exactly the type of teachable moment they needed. All of them. He could see the look of astonishment on Sasuke's face, no longer able to hide behind a veil of being above it all. He hadn't reacted nearly as fast to the threat after all. Picking himself up with an angry grumble, the now sour Uzumaki looked directly at his sensei. Well, first I figured that the puddle was a fake, 'cause it hasn't rained in weeks and any puddle should be gone in this heat. And I figured if I could figure that out, with everyone else being smarter than me, then it should have been really obvious to you all. So I figured with my clones I could take out the threat while my teammates could protect the client. Nodding and secretly still proud of the Uzumaki, Kakashi still had to lecture the boy and advise all of them. So do you know where you messed up? I didn't expect the explosion to be that big. Shaking his head, Kakashi motioned to his two teammates. Did you consider at all that your teammates actually didn't notice the puddle was a trap? Seeing the boy shake his head, Kakashi continued. Not only did you not communicate with your team about the possible threat, yes, your tactic could have ended with injury to your team and the client. Thankfully, that's what I'm here for, to cover for your inexperience, and to help you learn from these mistakes. Seeing the boy lose his energy at the admonishment, Kakashi smiled internally. Your decision-making was okay up to a point, but communication is key to teamwork. Keep that in mind from now on. You can't assume everyone is smarter than you and will make the same decisions as you. With that, Kakashi turned to their now sweating client. And you, Tsunade, we have much to talk about. Walking a bit away from the others, Kakashi was going to find out why the demon brothers were after a bridge builder from a small country. Dobe, how'd you pull off that explosion in the first place? Exploding Tag's team, give it a try sometime. Now really upset but determined to make up for it eventually, Naruto wasn't in the mood for Sasuke's I'm better than you attitude. You don't have to be rude to Sasuke-kun just cause you got chewed out, baka. Throwing his hands up in the air as his clones came back and dumped the paralyzed body of the other demon brother at his feet. Bound and gagged, the clones all saluted before dispersing themselves. There the 3 genin of Team 7 sat and waited, Sakura trying to stroke Sasuke's ego by saying how he would have taken both enemy ninja down without nearly killing them in the process, while Sasuke himself was looking at Naruto in a new light. Sure, he had thought his training wouldn't bridge the gap between them at all, but now he could see that at least within him was a competent teammate. Not like a certain fangirl. Maybe he should start working on those chakra exercises as well. Walking back to the group with a pale Tsunade, Kakashi was all smiles. Okay troops, here's the deal. Tsunade apparently has lied about why he needed as escort, and now we have a decision to make. Wave is currently under the heel of a greedy shipping magnate by the name of Gato, and Tsunade is building a bridge in order to get past his shipping embargo. In order to stop the bridge being built, Gato has apparently hired mercenaries to kill Tsunade and prevent the bridge from being built. If these two, the demon brothers, are involved, that means this is at least an B-rank mission. So we can turn back right now, or we can continue on at our own risk. Not even hesitating, Naruto threw up a fist. And missed the chance to kick some major ninja and save people? No way, I'm in. Nodding, Sasuke agreed with Naruto. We're ninja of the leaf. We don't get to abandon a mission once it's been given. Sakura, being of a different mind but not wanting to go against Sasuke, nodded. Yeah, there's no way any ninja are a match for us. Nodding with some pride, Kakashi turned to Tsunade. Welp, you heard them. We'll continue on with this mission. However, I will be making a report, and when this is over, there will be an adjustment. If the bridge is completed, we should be able to pay it no problem. While happy the ninja wouldn't abandon him, he wasn't sure how they would repay them when all this was over. Kakashi took note finally of Meizu's bound and gagged form, grinning at the young Uzumaki. Good job on the capture, Naruto. Give me a moment to prepare a scroll and send up a flare. They were still close to the village, and Umbu squad should be able to perform a quick pickup. Which, after penning a quick scroll to describe Naruto's defeat and capture of the enemy ninja along with the situation they found themselves in and their intention to continue, Kakashi sent up an emergency flare that he pulled from a pocket in his Jonin vest. Once that was done, he performed some quick hand seals and thrust his hand at the ground. Kuchiyos no Jutsu. From a poof of smoke, a small dog was sitting and waiting patiently for the masked ninja to give it orders. Tucking the scroll into the pug's collar, Kakashi nodded. Umbu should be here soon. Watch over this guy and give them the scroll when they get here. Moving the ninja off into the bushes and out of sight, Kakashi's summon nodded. Gotcha. Wait and play babysitter. Chuckling and turning to his team, Kakashi motioned for them to continue finally. Welp, let's get going, team. We have a lot of ground to cover. Hey, Kakashi-sensei, can you teach us that? Naruto was as always quick to try to learn something new. Maybe one day, but you have a long way to go before trying to summon anything. Sure, Naruto had the chakra for it, but considering his parentage, he wasn't going to step on those toes. Just in case someone else had a plan already. Fine. Also, Naruto, from here on, can you create clones to follow us in the tree line? I'd rather have some warning just in case. Give the boy some practice in using the clones in different ways, which, considering the light shining in his eyes, Naruto hadn't even thought to use the clones as a kind of early warning system before. Sure thing, sensei. Making his seal and disappearing in a fog bank worth of smoke. 36 clones sat in the road. Without a word, all but one leapt into the trees. Looking at the Naruto who was with them, Sasuke voiced a question. How will we know you're the real one? Couldn't someone kill a clone and transform into you? Nodding, Naruto figured that was true. Well, sure, but you're my team. So ask me an easy question only I would know. Like, what's the best flavor of ramen? Naruto, you like all ramen. It was Sakura who spoke up, Sasuke not getting it right away. Exactly. All ramen is my favorite. Seeing the kids begin to actually make plans and feed off one another, Kakashi decided not to chime in just yet. It had taken a little bit, but it seemed they were starting to take things a little more seriously as a team. Even Sakura was starting to use her head a bit, even if it took some coaxing. The rest of the afternoon was the team traversing the countryside making plans and keeping an eye on the road. Though no bandits or enemy ninja made any appearances, they all were on alert as they came closer to the land of Wave. From the water border, where they met a waiting boatman who nervously took them from the mainland across the fog-covered water. They finally made landfall in Wave itself as evening approached with no issues. Looking pointedly at Naruto, who gave a thumbs up, Kakashi motioned the team forward, moving quietly through the foggy forest. And it was moving through the mists that a nervous Sakura jumped at a rustling bush, launching a kunai into the cover. Everyone looking at her and waiting, she wordlessly went to investigate, coming back with a snow-white bunny. Laughing nervously, Sakura tried to console the terrified animal. "Guess I'm a little jumpy." Sasuke, however, was looking at it more closely. "Wait, it's still summer. No rabbit should be snow-white like that." Hearing something large cutting through the air, Kakashi was already pulling Tsunade to the ground. "Everyone down!" Hitting the dirt. Each of the genin had different thoughts as a sword just as tall as probably Kakashi himself flew overhead, burying itself into the trunk of a tree behind them. Silently landing on its edge, a foreign ninja stood watching them all. Heh! No wonder the demon brothers failed. Up against the famous copycat ninja himself. Bandages over his mouth and bare-chested, the mist ninja was glaring down at the Konoha ninja. "Though it looks like the mighty have fallen quite far. They got you babysitting brats now? Defend the client and don't get involved. This opponent is way out of your league." Only moving once the three genin encircled Tsunade, Kakashi turned his full attention to his enemy. Demon of the bloody mists, Zabuza. "What rock did you crawl out from?" Making a single sign, a thick mist began to roll in. "You'll regret not retreating when you could." The mist now so thick their visibility was barely a foot, and Zabuza's voice echoed from all directions. "I'll introduce you to my silent killing technique. Will it be your hearts, neck, spine, liver? So many instant kill strikes, so little time." All three younger members of Team 7 were doing their best to watch and protect their charge, while Kakashi had his senses on high alert for when Zabuza would make his appearance. Shifting his head back and forth, a subtle movement in the mist had him turning and lunging with all the speed he had. Somehow appearing among them, the mist cleared enough that the genin could see Zabuza winding up for a killing strike. "Too bad, kiddies. Time to die." Being kicked in the side and tossed away onto the nearby lake's surface before he could strike, he was set upon by Kakashi. Laughing and defending himself, the lack of concentration allowing the mist to clear, Zabuza taunted Kakashi. "How does it feel to once be so feared to have to be a glorified babysitting now? You'd be surprised. One day those kids are gonna surpass both of us." Dodging the oversized blade and connecting with a palm strike, he frowned as the sensation was all wrong. "Wait, water? It's heavy." Not being fast enough to pull off a substitution, Kakashi was engulfed in Zabuza's water prison. Willing to gloat now that his biggest threat was captured, Zabuza laughed. "Ha ha ha ha. How weak you've become. This is the fabled S-class ninja. Maybe Konoha needs to rethink its rankings." Watching their sensei come under fire, Naruto frowned before coming up with a rough but quick plan. "Sasuke, we're gonna save sensei." Pulling out a Fuma shuriken in a poof of smoke, Naruto relayed his quick plan. "Alright, Dobe, let's see if this works then. Sakura, watch Tsunade. What are you doing? Run, you can't fight him." Kakashi tried to impress on the kids to take the client and run. He might be able to fight his way out without the kids to worry about. Sasuke and Naruto are run forward together while Zabuza makes a dozen water clones. It is Naruto who counters with his own. "There's no way we'd leave you behind, sensei." Letting Naruto take the clones, Sasuke leapt and inhaled deeply. Preparing his chakra before exhaling his signature technique, the fireball was tinged on white at the edges. Just behind it traveled a hastily thrown Fuma shuriken. It took but a moment for the Uchiha scion to land on the lake's edge, watching the plan unfold. Zabuza was forced to build a hasty barrier in the form of a water wall in order to block the Gokakyu no Jutsu. The steam nearly hid the shuriken just behind it. Bringing his faithful sword around to block it, Zabuza was not prepared for the blonde that transformed in place of the fold-able weapon. Reaching forward and grabbing Zabuza's arm, The single exploding seal on the back of the clone's hand began to glow. Teach you to underestimate us, asshole. Katsu. Having to choose between holding Kakashi and losing an arm or retreating, Zabuza decided retreat was the better option. Dropping the water prison and performing a hasty substitution, Zabuza was more than a little irritated as the clone was still standing there giving him the finger. Teach you to underestimate the greatest prankster alive. Ruffling the brave blonde who was shakily standing on the lake's water, he walked forward. It's all me from here on. Watch your sensei work for a bit. Moving his headband to expose his Sharingan eye, Kakashi was now deathly serious. You're gonna fight me and protect those kids. Don't make me laugh. Performing hand seals in quick succession, Zabuza called out his technique, missing Kakashi copying him. Suetun. Suryuden no Jutsu. Twin techniques rose from the lake, intertwining before canceling each other. Ha! Think you're clever. Think your cheap tricks can keep up with an original, do you? Kakashi, however, wasn't a jounin for nothing. For every technique he had ever copied, he had made sure to master each and every one. Knowing Zabuza was going to run another water dragon, it was child's play to start sealing before him and finish the technique a few seconds ahead of him. Perhaps you should practice a bit more. Launching his own attack, it was Zabuza who was launched across the lake's surface and blasted into the trunk of a tree. Recovering his donated eye and exhausted, Kakashi moved to finish off his opponent. This was preempted, however, by several sunbans sinking into Zabuza's neck. Appearing like a whisper, a masked Kiri ninja appeared next to the demon of the bloody mists. Bowing politely to the team of Konoha Nin, the androgynous figure stood up. Thank you for the assist. I've been hunting this fugitive for some time. It will be good to return him to our village. Sighing and standing back, knowing he couldn't fight anymore, Kakashi nodded. It would have been nice to have an assist earlier, Hunter-san. With a shrug, the apparent hunter kneeled and grabbed hold of Zabuza's body, performing a body flicker and disappearing with the corpse. Once they were gone, it was a tired Kakashi who turned back to the team. Well, gotta say, that was exciting. That was as far as he got before he fell face first into the water. Ah, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto ran to pick their sensei up to prevent him from drowning. Several clones coming from their hiding places in order to help. A shaking Tsunade and Sakura came forward, the older man wiping his brow. You lot really are the real deal. Come on. My home isn't far. We can rest up for the night. Sakura was quick to check over their sensei, his large body dwarfing Naruto almost completely. Looking him over and checking his eye by opening a closed eyelid, and checking his breathing, Sakura eventually sighed and nodded. Looks like chakra exhaustion. Sensei should be fine after some rest. Nodding, Naruto motioned to Sasuke, who moved to the head of the group. Well, lead the way, Tsunade-san. We'll get you home. While Sasuke wouldn't admit to taking orders from Naruto, ever. At the moment, even he could admit that the blonde was trustworthy. And maybe they were wrong about him being the dead last after all. So with some newfound respect in his heart, Sasuke walked next to Tsunade as he led them to his home and a happy daughter who was more than happy to take them all in after seeing her father safe and sound at home. The night came to an end with Team 7 all in one piece, though each with different thoughts on their minds about just what this mission had come out to so far. Chapter 4. With a start, Kakashi awoke to a dark but comfortable room. Mind racing, it took a few moments before he could piece together what had led to him being laid up in a bed in an unknown place. The mission, the battle, winning, and overusing his cursed eye. It all came back to him in a flash and he groaned in half embarrassment. To think he'd exhaust himself too quickly in front on his students. Well, they lived to tell the tale, so he could live with it for now. Though when they got back to the village, he was sure to hear it from Asuma and the others when he filed his report. With a tired groan, the exhausted ninja rolled and rose to his feet, shuffling out the door and down the stairs where he could hear people. Downstairs, it was 3 bored genin who were waiting on the condition of their sensei to improve. While Naruto had wanted to train like normal, he figured that since they were in unfamiliar territory that he should probably wait for some orders for once. Sakura was helping Tsunade's daughter Tsunami prepare lunch with what supplies they had. Sasuke was waiting just as Naruto was, not entirely sure how they should proceed. Tsunade had assured them that he wouldn't need protection within the village of Wave, but they were all nervous regardless. However, as they heard a thumping from the stairs, all 3 students heaved a relieved sigh as their sensei made an appearance, though slow. Well, it's good to see everyone up and so chipper. Kakashi was in good spirits at least, seeing his students all happy and in one piece. Come with me, we have much to talk about. Thanking Tsunade for the help while he was out, he ushered his students out of the house and into a clearing not far away. Arranging all 3 of them before him, Kakashi got serious for a moment. I think it's time to get a little more hands-on with your training. Seeing each of the kids focus on him a bit more, he nodded with some pride. I'm proud of you, Naruto, for taking initiative to learn more of the basics and continuing chakra control and movement techniques. I would have thought our resident bookworm would have done the same. Looking pointedly at Sakura, she raised her hand. But Kakashi-sensei, why would we need to continue exercises after the academy? Motioning to Naruto, Kakashi hoped that maybe having an example would put things in perspective. Because first, you should always be working towards improvement. And second, many of these basic exercises have practical uses, like tree walking and water walking. Notice yesterday how Zabuza and myself continued our fight on the lake, or how Naruto was able to reposition using the trees. You never know what skill will have the most use and when, so it's best to learn all that you can, and practice. Plus, it'll do wonders for building up your chakra reserves. Much like a muscle, using it will build it up. Turning and motioning to the line of trees behind him, he looked mainly at Sakura and Sasuke. Your goal for the next week is to be able to reach the top of the tree with just your chakra. And not just once, you must continue the training until you can do so hours at a time without getting tired. This will increase both your control and your capacity. Turning to Naruto, Kakashi nodded. While I understand you have tree walking down, I noticed you're still working on the water walking skill. Yeah, I can hold it for short times, but varying my chakra still takes some concentration. Nodding and expecting the answer, Kakashi motioned back towards the village. Your job this week is to watch over the bridge building, practice the exercise while at the bridge, and make safe use of your clones in the meantime. Got it. Hi! Kakashi waved him off as he himself turned and trudged back to the house. Then I'm going back to bed. Chakra exhaustion is no joke, and I need to be in the best form I can be before the week is over. Not seeing the need for urgency, Sakura again raised her hand. Why's that, sensei? Kakashi looked back to them with a gleam in his eye. Because that Hunter Nin was a fake. Normally Hunter cut off the head and burned the body. Considering also the weapon used to eliminate Zabuza, I have a suspicion that the Hunter was actually Zabuza's accomplice. But waving them off, Kakashi turned away. But all we can do is prepare as much as possible and be ready for when they return. So saying, their sensei walked back towards their client's home. Standing there for a moment, Naruto himself turned to rush off to his assigned task. But it was Sasuke's voice that stopped him. No. Naruto, any advice about the tree walking technique? While Sasuke would normally never think to ask the dead last for anything, the last few days had shown that out here Naruto was anything but. Naruto had the skill and worked 3 times as hard as anyone else for it, and Sasuke could respect that. Scratching his neck, Naruto nodded. Well, usually you see me getting a running start at trees, right? You have to put the right amount of chakra at your feet to stick as well, to much and you blow off, and to little and you don't stick. But I noticed after a while that if you instead sit at the base of a tree and try sticking yourself first, it takes a little longer, but you get a better feel for how much or little chakra you need. Shrugging, Naruto did have the benefit of being able to spam clones for something like this. Nodding and turning away from his teammate Sasuke, got ready to practice. All right, just you wait. I'm gonna catch up to you, and we'll see who stays ahead by the end of the week. Maybe having a rival wasn't so bad. In your dreams, Sasuke. Naruto had a grin on his face though as he set off through the trees, not having a problem navigating towards the large bridge in the distance. Doing his duty as instructed, Naruto made good time to the bridge while traveling over the trees and rooftops, before dropping to the ground and landing not far away from the construction team. Raising a hand to wave at a surprised Tsunade, Naruto was still all grins. Kakashi-sensei finally woke up, gave me orders to come watch over you while getting some training done. Waving the kid off but nodding as he was just doing his job, Tsunade turned back to his crew who were waiting for some orders themselves. Knock yourself out, kid. Just try not to get underfoot, all right? Leaping towards the side of the bridge, Naruto crossed his fingers. No sweat, Tsunade-san. Kagebushin no jutsu. Pumping more chakra than he probably should have. A few hundred clones all fell to the water below to begin training. Satisfied that they were doing just that, Naruto walked up the support pillar of this section of bridge before sitting and keeping an eye out, completely out of the way like he was asked. Eyes wide and staring at the slip of a kid, who apparently really was a ninja, of the men whispered to Tsunade. You really got some ninja to come protect us to finish the bridge? Nodding, Tsunade slapped the blueprint on their hastily put together work table. Sure did. And these kids did a super job protecting me and getting me here safe. I trust them and you should too. Now, here's the schedule for today. Tsunade wasn't worried about the black and orange-clad boy who was watching over him, completely confident the kid would protect him just like he said he would. So he would do his own job and complete this bridge. Day to night, night to day. For grueling days of training and watching their client went by in almost a blink. And through it all, Team 7 kept their morale up while their teacher regained his strength. This night, however, found everyone at the dinner table. Naruto contributing by surprise by showing up with an armload of fish. Can't be a freeloader, and clones are useful for more than just blowing stuff up. Tsunade was more than happy to take the extra provisions and cook a much larger meal. Sitting and enjoying some rice, it was Kakashi who warned his high-spirited students. Remember, tomorrow is most likely crunch day, so everyone is to be at the bridge, which means rest and recovery tonight. While everyone on the team knew who that was aimed at, Naruto had the decency to blush and agree. It was, however, a ill-tempered Inari, Tsunade's son, that finally had enough. How can you be so happy? You can't win against Gato. He'll crush you just like he's crushed everyone else. You're going to die, don't you care? Pulling up his mask after taking a bite, ignoring the hearts in Tsunade's eyes, Kakashi sighed. I don't think you'll need to worry about us. I've dealt with worse than Gato in my time. Frowning as once between the three of them, none of the genin had seen Kakashi's face this time. It was Naruto that focused on the here and now. Yeah, we're super awesome. There's no way we're gonna let some wannabe dictator stop us. Full of confidence, Naruto fully believed their team would pull through. They had Kakashi after all too. Standing up and pointing, the frustrated kid was now fully angry. I don't want to hear it from some coddled ninja. I bet you've never suffered once in your life at all. Surrounded by your friends and family, never having to worry about if you'll have to eat that night or if some bandits are going to come through your home at night. This is the real world. Why don't you try living in it? While Sakura and Sasuke didn't know much about Naruto's past, they both knew that he had been treated differently than the rest of them. So even they were a little shocked at just how quickly the happy look drained from Naruto's face, replaced with a cold glacial look that was better suited on an angry Hyuga. Maybe you should consider not everyone who's happy actually had a happy life. I know what it's like to suffer, but at least you still have some of your parents, people who love you. That's what's most important, isn't it? Voice and tone cold. Naruto stood and bowed to Tsunade. Thank you, Tsunade-san. I'll be leaving for a while. No one bothered to stop the blonde as he made for the door, opening and closing it in a fluid motion. Sakura made to go after him, but Kakashi settled her down with a wave of his hand. Let him go blow off some steam. He'll be all right. He's just mad that I'm right. So childish. Inari chose to speak up again, but the look sent his way by the Team 7 sensei froze him in place. It's not fully my story to tell, but Naruto was an orphan since birth. No parents, no family, no friends. It's only recently that he started forming any bonds with people. Do you think you could be as happy and carefree as he is, growing up in such a way? Kakashi, of course, couldn't get into the why his life had been that way or the worse things that had happened to him. That was up to his wayward student to bring up himself. Turning to the door with a contemplative look, Sakura reevaluated her thoughts about her teammate, while Sasuke turned back to his meal. Nothing he could do about it now after all. Naruto, however, was venting his frustration in the best way he knew how, creating dozens of clones and pounding away at himself. Literally. Long into the night, he trained and practiced before eventually the day's normal training caught up with him and he passed out in a heap below a scarred tree. The full moon watched over him as eventually the mists concealed him from the rest of the world for the night. It was in his dreams, however, that things began to go all kinds of weird. Normally Naruto would enjoy a wonderful dream involving never-ending ramen, or maybe after a particularly stressful day, something that involved ramen and particular classmates from his time at the academy. Tonight, however, no perversions, but instead he found himself in a dank sewer, ankle-deep in water. Well, this doesn't look good. Maybe I ate some bad fish? Already feeling guilty about insulting Tsunade's amazing cooking, Naruto began to wander aimlessly through those wet halls. It all felt just slightly off, like a place he didn't know but should. But he walked still, for maybe hours or days, before he found himself in a cavernous space where as far as he could see were bars wider than he was tall. Walking up to one, there was a simple piece of paper with the word seal written on it, but no more. Just where is this? Come and find out. A giant red claw reached out, trying to impale him. The bars closed ranks automatically and kept him from being torn to shreds. But Naruto was already looking up, past the claws, past the arm and into the baleful red eyes of a beast of legend that he never thought he would see alive. You're the QB, aren't you? Growling low and moving away from the bars. They'd opened up as his malice towards his container settled into something barely above annoyance. So the little monkey can connect the dots. Truly an accomplishment for such a simpleton. The ageless demon was not impressed. So many of his previous hosts were much more fearsome than this whelp. Yeah, well, I'm not the one who's locked away in this little monkey, now am I? Big bad QB. Locked away in a kid. Naruto was scared, he could admit that, but he would rather spit in the eye of the kami before admitting it to this asshole. So this kid had fire, just like his mother. Muahahaha. So he has teeth after all. Tell me, whelp, you've started taking life serious. But is it enough yet? Think you can take me? He'd love a challenge right now, and tricking this kid into fighting him for control so early would be a boon. Sure, they could speak already because the boy's control over his own chakra had improved a great deal, but it was nowhere near enough to truly deal with his yet. Yeah, right? I'd love to say yeah, but I've got a long way to go. Firming up his resolve, Naruto held out a fist to the beast. Just you wait though, one day I'm going to be the strongest, and when I am, me and you are going to have it out. You got it. Challenging the strongest of the tailed beasts, Naruto was, if nothing else, ambitious. You amuse me. I'll take that challenge and I'll even help you. You are the container to the strongest biju in existence. I deserve no less than to have the strongest container. So I will heal you when needed, and occasionally gift you my chakra. But you better continue your training and build your own strength, lest my power consume you. Smiling wide with rows of sharp fangs flashing, the bloodthirst in the QB's eyes was very apparent. Not looking this gift horse in the mouth, Naruto nodded. Oh, I'll get strong all right, and you'll see. I'm going to prove everyone wrong about me, even you. No longer caring and ready to be done with the child, the QB turned away. Time will tell, whelp, but perhaps you should consider waking before your throat is slit. Woo! And Naruto's mind fell. Morning, however, found a new occupant in the clearing, a black-haired beauty who stumbled upon the blonde bomber much by accident. Recognizing him, however, they waffled between ending the threat or sparing him, before deciding it wasn't his decision to make. So, taking pity on the boy currently soaked in the morning dew, they shook his shoulder. Excuse me, but you probably shouldn't be sleeping outside here. How was it? Through the haze of his dream, Naruto blearily opened his eyes and looked upon the person above him. Hello there. What's your name? Curious about his watcher, Naruto sat up. My name is Haku. This is certainly an odd place to sleep. Why are you out here all alone? Oh, I was training. Got a little carried away, I guess. I'm a ninja here to protect the bridge builder. Finally rolling to his feet and stretching, his back stiff from sleeping on the cold ground overnight. What are you doing out here? Pointing at a basket full of herbs, Haku smiled. Collecting herbs for a friend of mine. Say, would you like to help me? Deciding he didn't have anything better to do at the moment, and by the looks of the sun he had some time before he needed to get back. Naruto nodded. Sure thing. I'll help out. Show me what we're looking for? Looking to take his time, Naruto didn't spam clones for this task. So he set to work, listening to Haku intently as the apparent young woman showed him what herbs were useful and which ones were no more than weeds. It wasn't long before the basket was full and Haku was standing ready to go. Thank you, Naruto-san, for the help. No sweat, miss. All in a day's work for a ninja. Seeming to think something over for a moment, Haku asked a question. When I asked you why you were out here, you told me you were training. Can I ask? Why are you training so hard? Keeping their motivation to themselves, they were genuinely curious. Well, to get strong, of course. I want to be Hokage one day, and I have to be the strongest to do that. The answer was quick and truthful. His goal and dream always on his mind. Is that strength just for you, however? Or for others? Pausing at Naruto's slightly confused looks, Haku clarified. To me, real strength comes from defending those precious to you. Strength for yourself is too selfish and can't take you further than protecting those you love. Think of your Hokage. Don't you think he loves all of your village? Does he toil that much harder to make sure his loved ones don't have to suffer? Turning away, slightly ready to leave, Haku nodded to the thinking boy. Something to think about. Yeah, it is. Sure, the QB wanted Naruto to be the strongest of the strong, and Naruto wanted to be strong in order to become Hokage. But was being strong all there was? Or was having someone precious to protect part of the equation too? Unbidden, the faces of Irika and the Ichirakus entered his mind. Looking up at the departing beauty, Naruto grinned. Thanks for the advice. Haku-chan, you're a nice lady, able to enjoy a bit of teasing. Haku looked back at the boy with a smile. No worries. Pausing for effect, an effeminate boy tilted his head. And I'm a boy, Naruto-kun. Continuing on his way without another word, Haku left a flabbergasted but smiling Naruto, who, after shaking himself, realized he was now running late. Shit, time to get back. And off like a shot, Naruto was up and into the trees, making a beeline for Tsunade's home. Making great time, or so he thought. Naruto was unprepared for the scream that reached his ears. Making a squad of a dozen clones, they all vanished in a swirl of leaves. Inari was standing in the hallway of his home, trembling but starting down to worn-down samurai holding his mom hostage. Scared and worried everything was going to fall apart again. Tears were already tracking down Inari's face as one of the thugs held his mom against him. Ella, let my mom go. The unburdened thug came forward, grin on his face. Normally I'd complain Gato doesn't pay us enough, but with this little treat I think I'll be satisfied with today. Pulling his sword as he turned away from his cohort, he made a show of pointing the rusted weapon at the barely standing boy. Don't you worry, kid, your mom will be seeing you soon, after we're done with her. That'd be a long while from now. But kid didn't need to worry about that. Over my dead body. Before he could turn completely to look at who called out, a sandal-clad foot connected with the back of his head. Disoriented and dizzy, he wasn't prepared for two sets of arms to toss him back out the front door and into the yard, where he was immediately pummeled by a dozen waiting clones. Inari was suddenly in his mother's embrace, both crying and assuring themselves that the other was okay and unhurt. Naruto watched them with an odd look on his face, before turning away and knowing it was time to get to the bridge. Seeing their last-minute savior go, Inari wrestled free and reached out to the boy. Wait, don't go, Gato will win. He'll always win. Just run, let's run. Scoffing, Naruto thumbed his headband with a wide grin on his face. Already mind set in battle mode. I'm a proud ninja of the leaf. We don't run when things get tough. You've got to stand up for yourself eventually, Inari, or deadbeats like Gato will keep walking all over you. I'll leave some clones, you'll both be safe here. With that, Naruto was out and into the trees, leaving behind several clones who were busy tying up the thugs. Hey, Tsunade-san? Want to take a turn kicking the shit out of these guys? Hey, idiot language. She's a lady. Who you calling an idiot, idiot? And she doesn't mind, do you, Tsunade-san? You. I'm calling you an idiot, you idiot. Watching clones of the boy literally argue with themselves, it was Inari who was already running out of the door quickly, a plan slowly forming in the boy's mind. I'm going to get help, Mom. I'll be back as soon as I can. And he too was gone. The absurdity of everything that had happened within the last 15 minutes finally catching up to her. Tsunade decided it might be best to just roll with it. Looking upon the waking samurai, Tsunade came outside hoisting a cast iron pan. Hold them still, boys. I have a lot of frustration to let out. After several identical cheers, only pained screaming was heard. Naruto had already created another few dozen clones who had spread out as they neared the bridge, and the sight he came upon was not a welcome one. Like Kakashi-sensei had thought, Zabuza was up and in fighting form again, holding off the Leaf Jounin with his massive cleaver. However, while Sakura was protecting the bridge builder, it was Sasuke who was fighting against the masked fake hunter Nin within a dome of strange-looking mirrors. Naruto made a last leap before sliding to watch Sasuke's back. A kunai in each hand blocking or diverting senbon. Heh! Thought you'd be done by now, Sasuke. What's taking you so long with this loser? Panting but watching the hunter's movements. Sasuke wanting to be irritated with the blonde but just couldn't. For once happy to see the knucklehead. Oh, wanted to give you a chance to see how much more awesome I am than you. Spinning to deflect a needle from his left, Naruto was already moving to his right to defend his blind spot. Aha, yeah, sure. Just admit you missed me. Having a hard time keeping up, Naruto was about to signal his clones start getting explodey. Before you do anything, know that those mirrors took my full-strength fireball and didn't budge. We're gonna need something with a lot more power. Oh, I've got something all right. Figured out how to direct the blast of my clone's wrist bombs now. A creepy chuckle leaving his mouth, Naruto was ready to show off. Seeing the boys starting to rally, Haku blurred between all of the mirrors again, readying more senbon while a half-hand seal formed even more made of ice. I'm sorry, but I can't let you interfere with Zabuza-sama's plans. Letting loose the weapons, it was with a heavy heart that Haku put these boys down. Knowing he wasn't going to be able to recall enough clones in time, purely on instinct Naruto grabbed Sasuke, pulling him under himself while 3 clones burst into existence. The next moment Naruto knew nothing but pain, the vision in his left eye going dark in the same moment. Under him Sasuke barely had time to register what had happened, but the feeling of something wet dripping on his face was a clue that things were not going as planned. Damn it, team, why don't you toughen up a bit? I'm not going to always be here to save your hide after all. Left eye a ruined mess from a needle entering through the side of his face. The rest of his body looked like a pincushion. And while the other clones had taken enough hits and dispersed, Sasuke himself was unharmed. In the end, he decided to protect you. Truly, he must have been a good friend to you. It's a pity that it has to end this way. Goodbye. Conjuring more ice needles, Haku readied to end this. Feeling something inside of him change and feeling a heat in his eyes that he'd never felt before, Sasuke didn't feel like stopping the hot tears breaking free. You dope! You aren't supposed to sacrifice yourself for me. I've been shitty to you, all of us have. You're supposed to be Hokage one day, aren't you? You can't die if you're gonna make that happen, can you? Feeling his clones closing in, a strange calm washing over him, Naruto nodded. You're right, team. I can't let it end here. Grabbing a fist full of the red-eyed Uchiha's shirt, Naruto heaved the boy out and through the gaps in the dome to land at Sakura's and Tsunade's feet. 'Cause my job is to protect my precious friends, and that includes you. Starting from his navel, chakra exploded forth from Naruto, forcing loose all of the senbon and evaporating the ice versions as well. In an instant, every mirror suddenly had a Naruto palming its surface, volatile seal bracelets glowing. You want me dead, huh? Well, you better make it flashy. The explosions were properly directed this time and blew apart the ice mirrors with ease. One of which held the real Haku, who was sent tumbling end over end before coming to a shaky stop on legs that barely supported him. What are you? You shouldn't be standing. Mask cracked but not broken. The fake hunter only had a moment to raise his head. Appearing directly in front of him in a body flicker was a glowing red ninja with a dark eye reforming by the moment, and his fist was already crashing into his face. I'm gonna be the next Hokage, and I'll be damned if I watch anyone in front of me die. And if fresh chakra coursing through him, his fist crashed into and through Haku's face mask, shattering it and tossing the now barely conscious boy on his back in a heap. Seeing his opponent down, it took a few moments for Naruto to heave a few breaths before finally calming down, the angry red chakra slowly leaving him as well. He was tired, and his eye ached, but he was happy to note his loss of vision was only temporary. Guess the bastard fox was good on its word. Walking up to the groggy boy, Naruto frowned. So it's you. What about protecting your precious people? Sighing and spent, Haku had for all purposes seemed to give up. Zabuza is my most precious person. He raised me, gave me a home, saved me from the loneliness crushing down on me from the savageness of this world. Looking at Naruto at something deeper in him, he sighed. You know it as well what people are willing to do to others who don't fit in, who don't belong. My mother was a victim of the bloodline purges in the mists. I only lived because I killed my father to save my own life. All I have is Zabuza, who I considered like a real father, and so I became his tool to repay that. And now I'm broken. And a broken tool can only be thrown away. Ready to bite his own tongue if needed, Haku was ready for his end. Well, screw that. You said only the truly strong get so in order to protect their precious people, right? Well, if Zabuza is so precious to you, you've got to be just as precious to him. As a person, not as a tool. And someone like that wouldn't want you to give up so easily. You aren't just a tool, you're special to him. Not far away and deep in their own fight, Kakashi and Zabuza were both tired and nearing the end of their limits. They were, however, listening to a very impassioned blonde. Your brat needs to learn when to leave well enough alone. Little shit, you don't know the half of it. He has a way of getting under people's skin. How about we end this then, with one last original move? Barking out a laugh, Zabuza nodded. An original move from you. Why, I'm honored. Let's see what you got, Kakashi. Breaking away to ready his blade, Zabuza was met with what sounded like thousands of birds chirping. Crouched and holding his right arm, Kakashi had wreathed his hand in lightning, Sharingan eye blazing for the extra reaction time. Meet my one original move, the Chidori. Lunging forward at breakneck speeds, Kakashi was aiming straight for the heart this time. Ha! So simple. I'll cleave you in two. At least, that was what Zabuza wanted, but that was thwarted by several dogs latching onto his extremities. What's this? While I may get tunnel vision with this move, I've learned to work through that weakness. This is goodbye, Zabuza. Thrusting his hand forward, Kakashi was unprepared for the body that came in between the two. While Naruto had been focused on his teacher, amazed at the special technique he was using, it was Haku who was watching the scene while Naruto's own voice was ringing in his head. Mustering up the last of his strength and making one last flicker, he interposed himself between Kakashi and Zabuza, taking the attack to his chest. Silence reigned in that moment. All of the Team 7 Genin surprised that the broken boy could still move enough to sacrifice himself in an attempt to protect who he considered his father figure. But it hadn't been enough, Kakashi's hand and arm piercing far enough through Haku to also break through Zabuza's sword that he had raised in defense and into his own heart as well. You idiot, you were supposed to stay down and live, not die with an old failure like me. Tears tracking down his face, Zabuza limply fell to his knees, pulling himself free from Kakashi's hand. Pulling his arm free and recognizing the battle was over, the Leaf Jounin covered his Sharingan eye and laid the dying boy in Zabuza's lap. Turning away, Kakashi could respect a worthy opponent at least in the end, and started walking away. Naruto, however, had come to stand next to Kakashi, face stuck somewhere between sadness and rage, not at his sensei, but at the unfairness of the world they came from. Why does it have to be this way? Heck, kid, you're a useless dreamer, got more guts than brains. Using what strength he had left, he tossed the handle half of his giant cleaver to the boy who awkwardly caught it. That blade is meant for useless dreamers like you and me. Why don't you try succeeding where I failed and change this shitty world of ours? Pausing to lean down and cradle the boy in his lap, Zabuza's voice fell to a whisper. Now, like me, sleep with my son. I think I deserve the rest. I clouded by tears and cradling the surprisingly light blade. Naruto did as his sensei and turned away, allowing the two not-so-enemy ninja their peace. At least until a crossbow bolt landed not far from their feet, and a cackle met their ears. Well, 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 so much for the demon of the mists. More like a kitten if you ask me. Getting cheers and shouts from a crowd of mercenaries and thugs, the shorter-than-average shipping magnate known as Gato held up a hand. Listen up. Leave the girl but kill the rest. A good bounty to whoever brings my the ninjas' heads. They're worth a lot of money after all. His proclamation getting cheers, the crowd started across the bridge. Rage building in his chest, Naruto didn't spare any thought to what he was about to do. but it was a gentle hand on his shoulder that had him looking up at his sensei, now mismatched blue and purple eyes looking at the older man accusingly. I won't tell you not to kill them. Just remember this moment, and what we all that carry the will of fire hope for one day. Rage will leave you empty once spent. I know. To many memories to count, he and Naruto would be having a sit-down after this. I'll remember this. And don't worry, sensei. Turning back to the approaching mob, summoning more than 100 clones before him, all of their faces grim, he uttered one last thing quietly, not noticing the townspeople showing up. This is just pest control. Forgoing the blade in his hand as these scum weren't worth its edge, Naruto silently commanded his clones forward. The explosions and fire would at least give Haku and Zabuza a flashy send-off. Another week, full of construction and rebuilding and raiding Gato's mansion. Found at the end of it a completed bridge and a tired Team 7 saying their goodbyes to Tsunade and his family. Shaking the hand of the elder ninja Tsunade himself was happy things had turned out as well as they had. Thank you for everything. Nodding, Kakashi motioned down to his team. They're the ones who believed in continuing, and I'm proud of them for what they've achieved. It had taken a few nights of quiet talks to work Naruto through what had happened on the bridge. Killing so many all at once a very large burden, but Naruto was working through it, and have promised that if he was affected that he would see a Yamanaka therapist back in the village right away. Grinning and listening to Inari tell him again how he rallied all the townspeople together to come fight with them, Naruto was a bit more subdued by still happy to be heading back home. Little more than half of the giant cleaver strapped to his back, he felt like they had really done some good here, even if things could have gone better. But he learned some important lessons more than just fighting or techniques. Something that he'd stick in his core for a long time. Feeling Inari finally break down and hug him tightly, Naruto returned it just the same. You take care of your mom, okay? And next time you gotta come visit me in Konoha. Got it? Sure thing, bro. Mom's got nothing to worry about with me around. Backing away and standing next to Tsunade, the entire town was out to wish the team goodbye. And with Kakashi signaling the quiet teens, they turned and walked back home, over the newly completed bridge and back to the lives they knew. Looking to her father, Tsunade smiled softly. Do you have a name for your bridge, now that it's complete? Grinning and adjusting his glasses, Tsunade laughed. Well, at first I was going to call it Tsunade's super awesome Bridge of Salvation, getting a few chuckles from the crowd. Instead, Tsunade watched the influential team of Konoha ninja walk away, the loudest of the group waving at Inari as they left. But I'm thinking instead, the great Naruto Bridge, after someone who inspired all of us to rise up for ourselves and was willing to risk himself for nothing more than knowing it was the right thing to do. Down the road and now out of sight, it was that very blonde who had a tired grin on his face. Oh, I'm so ready to be back home. I've got so much to tell the Ikarakus. Looking at his teammate, momentarily forgetting about his unlocked Jujutsu, Sasuke could help but smirk along with the blonde. Well, with as much as you talk about their ramen, guess I'll join you this time around, and to make sure you don't butcher the story too much. Hey, I resent that. I was gonna make you look good too, but now you can forget it. Well, I better come along too then, just to make sure both of your egos don't get in the way. While Sakura had a long way to go to fix her mentality about Naruto, this mission had really put a big rip in the image she had of the blonde. While she still wouldn't date him, she could now at least see him as a capable teammate. Looking left and right at his teammates. Friends? The now hetero-comic blonde grinned. All right then, Team 7 is gonna pig out on ramen when we get back. Believe it, it had been a long and surprisingly difficult mission, but every member of Team 7 was happy to be making it home, each one with their own valuable experience nestled in their heart. Chapter 5. Groaning and stretching as he stood alone in the middle of the training grounds, was a content Naruto who was ready for a new day. While Kakashi-sensei had given them a few days to relax and recuperate from their C-turned-to-rank mission, Naruto of all of them was ready to buckle down even harder than before. So here he was, half of the headhunter's cleaver on his back and ready to experiment. Bracing himself and making an even 200 clones, Naruto raised a fist and grinned. One half is for chakra control with water walking, 1/4 is for shunshin practice, and the last quarter are for seal practice. Let's get to it. Before he fully turned away, the clearing was filled with cheers before the sounds of just to use followed. Sitting down under a tree while placing the still just as large as him sword down against the wood next to him, Naruto unsealed a jar of sealing ink and a brush. Removing his black jacket and getting to work on a scroll, B began to work on applying seals first to the paper, and then adhering the paper to his body. From frequent trips to the library and exhausting what scrolls he could borrow on seals, Naruto had learned about these latest ones that would help him with his physical training. Those were weight seals. Instead of dealing with bulky weights that eventually wouldn't be able to keep up, Naruto had decided that these would probably work better in the long run. Finishing and applying one to his chest, where he already could feel the added weight, he started on the next one. The seals were preset to apply a certain percentage of his body weight, which he could later adjust at any point with just a few brush strokes. Eventually, with enough training, he hoped to be able to strong enough to wave around this giant sword like a feather. But one thing at a time, so they say, finishing up a total set of 6 more seals and linking them all together with a master on or off seal on his left wrist, 2 for each leg, and 1 on each forearm. He activated each before putting his supplies away. Maybe I overdid it? Groaning and forcing himself to stand and eventually doing so, Naruto shook his head. Won't get stronger if I don't push myself. Let's get to it. Starting off at a slow jog, his goal for the day was to hopefully get up to running speed somewhat close to normal. As usual, if Naruto had been paying attention, he would have considered that the complete set of 7 weight seals didn't total out to a percentage of his total weight, but each seal individually did so. Meaning at the moment he was trying to run with about 3 times his normal weight. Unnoticed by the sweating blonde was a girl who was doing her best to work up the courage to talk to him. She had heard that his team had returned to the village, and with some light teasing from her own sensei, she had come out early during their own rest day to try to see him. As usual, she had found him training to the max, lavender eyes gaining some determination as she thought of her potential rival and how she wouldn't have a problem talking to her crush. Hinata Hyuga stepped out from behind the tree and made her way to a struggling Naruto. Gigi, good morning, Naruto-kun. She actually spoke out to him. Looking over and seeing the quiet girl, Naruto had to puzzle out for a moment to remember who she was. He didn't speak to her much at the academy, but she was one of the few that was never really mean to him. What was her name again? Oh, hey Hinata-chan. Come out to train early today? Sorry, I'm taking up the training ground here. I can clear out if you need. He was sure each team had their own training ground, but he could be wrong. Shaking her head and gaining some confidence, Hinata strode forward. No, you're not in the way. Maybe I could join you? Be bold, be bold, be bold. Sure. The more the merrier. I'm working on my physical fitness right now with weight seals, so I'll be a little slow, but you can join me or work with any of my clones. I've got a bunch. Laughing at himself a bit, he continued making laps of the field. Deciding some jogging would be good to start with, she was quick to catch up with Naruto and ran with him on his left, though slightly behind him. The seals he had applied to himself looked complex and well done, and she was so focused on them she almost forgot that she was staring at Naruto's bare arms. Were his muscles always that defined? Blush forming on her face, she did her best to shake her thoughts away. You know, it's gonna get hot soon, you may want to lose that thick jacket. Don't want to pass out early. Seeing it as the most logical thing, Naruto pointed out his own jacket. You can stash it next to mine if you'd like, going scarlet at the thought of taking off her jacket while in front of Naruto, and was ready to deny it and tell him she was fine. Jade eyes crossed her mind. Would she have a problem? Of course not. She didn't need to wear a bulky jacket or hide herself away. Be bold. SSS sure thing. I'll catch up. Dashing away as they came up to Naruto's jacket and sword, Hinata gave his things a quick once-over before, all at once making her decision, shucked her jacket and ran to rejoin the boy. Clad in a standard black kunoichi top with mesh lining, Hinata was back to running just behind the bright blonde boy. They ran together in silence for a while, one doing everything he could to focus on not letting the weight crush him, while the other was trying not to die of embarrassment. But, after long enough, the routine of training kicked in, and her blush began to ebb away. Focused on the boy's back, she worked herself up to ask a question. Naruto-kun, what happened to your eye? Slowing only slightly, Naruto thought of how to explain the change of the color to her. Officially, Kakashi-sensei said that he should tell everyone that because it was damaged due to potentially poison that it changed the color permanently. But it felt a little too fake. Then again, if he changed the story now, Kakashi-sensei would get seriously mad with him, never mind Gigi. Well, during our mission, I was fighting this really tough opponent who used Senbon. He got me pretty good once and it tore up my eye. Thankfully, for some reason, I've always healed fast. But now it's just purple. Nothing special about it. And that was true. Besides one of his eyes now being purple, there was nothing different about it. I'm glad to see you've recovered, though that scar looks painful. Hinata was alluding to the long but thin scar that went from the corner of his left eye to nearly his temple. It didn't bug him at all, only occasionally itching. But that was it. Slowing and motioning that he was getting on the ground, Naruto began a long series of push-ups while Hinata absently dropped in front of him and did the same. Well, it doesn't hurt all, promise. Just a little itchy sometimes. Gulping down air and focusing on the ground, Naruto wasn't fully prepared when he looked up to make eye contact with the lavender-eyed girl. Because while her cute face was watching him with an inquisitive look, the front of her shirt drooped quiet a bit. Blushing and forcefully staring directly into her eyes, Naruto swore to the kami he wasn't turning into his sensei. Seeing her crush turn red, she had to note that he had a lot of weight on him if the amount of chakra flowing through those seals were an idea. And it was starting to warm up now that the sun was rising. Thinking for a while as she hadn't talked to him ever, she was curious about what else he had gotten up to. It was pretty easy to talk to him once she got going. How was it, your first mission outside? Diverting his eyes down and focusing intently on the dirt, unintentionally giving Hinata the idea that things weren't all that great, even if that was the truth. Naruto eventually started recounting the mission. From start to finish, he talked about their grumpy old man client, the not-so-smart demon brothers, their first run-in with Zabuza, and all the craziness that followed. His tale took long enough for both young ninja to move one from push-ups to sit-ups, then from sit-ups to squats. Finishing his normal strength training and standing straight finally with a smile, Naruto wound down his story and pointed at his sword. And then we've been back for a few days. I still haven't started really training with Headhunter. But Kakashi said I have plenty of time, and at my level he said it's more of a one-motion weapon anyway, so I should focus on simple movements first. Which he would, and eventually he would find a teacher. Mesmerized by the determination and grit of the boy in front of her, Hinata internally had to hope that one day she could measure up to that same standard. I think you've made a lot of progress, Naruto-kun. Pausing as she looked up at a now visibly higher sun, she smiled. I think you'll make your dreams come true one day. Happy that he had a friend who believed in him, Naruto hooked a thumb towards the tree where their stuff was. Want to spar for a bit before taking a break for lunch? I've never fought a Hyuga before. Nodding without a thought and waiting for the boy to get situated across from her, she eventually lowered into her family stance. I'm ready. Grinning, Naruto fired forward, seemingly no longer hindered by the extra weight. Let's do this. For the rest of the morning, Naruto and Hinata sparred back and forth. Hinata showing flexibility and amazing skill in both evading Naruto's wild strikes and punishing his overextensions when she could. In turn, while Naruto was slowed down somewhat, he still hit a lot harder than she was used to, but she was happy that someone was taking her seriously. Kiba had a tendency to pull his punches with her, and Shino wasn't the physical type at all. Both children happy, and in the moment it was a carefree Naruto who eventually slipped up, not being able to back away from a strike from Hinata completely and taking a full-force juken to the side for his error. Yow, that's smarts. Lifting his shirt and looking at the bruise forming, Hinata was too frazzled to continue herself. While normally she would be blushing at Naruto's brazen abs display, she was more worried about the damage she may have done. She had moved completely on instinct and hadn't meant to strike with such force. But as Naruto just grinned and laughed, he shrugged and put down his shirt. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? Never better. Man, your hits pack a punch. No wonder you're so good. I bet your team really appreciates you. Ever one to dish out compliments, Naruto was all smiles. Plus, he was sure the fox was already healing the damage. More than likely, he'd be fine in a few minutes. While the huffing and puffing girl wasn't too sure about that, she did look around as there seemed to be a lot less clones on the training field with them. Um, Naruto, what happened to your clones? Ah. Looking around and then looking up, Naruto nodded. It's lunchtime. They usually disperse to warn me that it's time to eat. Guess I'm a little distracted. With a chuckle, Naruto was already turning to pick up his down jacket and sword. I didn't mean to break your routine, Naruto-kun. She hadn't meant to be a bother. She knew how important a routine could be to some people. No sweat, I had fun. We should train together again sometime. Working up a sweat together is the best way to spend a morning. Hearing a thump behind him, Naruto looked back at the passed-out Hinata, steam billowing from her ears. Wait, Hinata-chan. You okay? Hey, wake up. Poor boy would learn to choose his words better in the future with someone who had such an active imagination. Blushing but walking next to the grinning boy, Hinata was poking her fingers together as they walked to Ichiraku's ramen stand. I'm sorry for the trouble. Waving his hand with no concern, Naruto was all smiles. It's no sweat. I pass out after a good workout lots of times. I wouldn't judge. Turning and holding the flap for the stand open, Naruto called out, Hey there, old man. Need a dozen bowls or pork ramen today? Tons of training to catch up on. Looking up to see his favorite customer waltz in, his grin grew a few sizes seeing a blue-haired and lavender-eyed girl coming in along with him. And what was this? Naruto pulled out a seat for her. Oh ho. Well, my boy. Order coming up. And what about the little lady? Nearly overwhelmed by the smiling face above them, Hinata pointed at the sign behind him. Miso would be nice, please. Watching the man nod and turn away, there was a pretty girl who came out from the back room upon hearing Naruto was there. Hey there, I am Ne-chan. Any good news today? Naruto, as always, considered these two some of his most important people in this village. Now if only he had Irika here, it'd be a nearly perfect lunch. Nope, Naruto, nothing new so far. Though it's a sight to see you in here with such a cutie. Who's this? Both teasing and curious, I am turned to the Hyuga girl. Rocking in his seat slightly, Naruto nodded. This is Hinata-chan. She's on a different team, but she's a good friend of mine. We've been catching up this morning since we haven't really seen each other since the academy. Finally getting his first bowl of ramen, Naruto started to dig in. Shaking her head at the boy's antics, Ayam nodded to the younger girl who had her jacket in her lap. Well, if Naruto says you're good people, you're always welcome here. Looking the younger girl over, however, a sly grin worked its way on her face. Plus, Naruto really needs someone level-headed to watch out for him. Don't let all the training fool you. He's kind of an airhead. Ignoring the protests from the boy, Hinata nodded to the older woman with a smile on her face. This was nice, warm, much warmer than her family at home. Turning slightly as someone else threw open the barrier, it was a loud, girlish voice that drew attention. I knew I heard a loudmouth. What's up, Whiskers? You overdo it again. Ino wasn't normally one for ramen, but she was one for following things that interested her. And currently, that was a ditzy blonde. Throwing up a hand and greeting the jade-eyed girl, Naruto was still in high spirits. Ino-chan, you ditched the lazy trio. While he and the Yamanaka hadn't hung out all that much, they had occasionally chatted about plants and their uses and meanings. Ino hadn't been prepared for a boy to know stuff like that, and it was what got her started watching the boy. And as she slid into the seat next to him and placed her own order, she had to silently beg forgiveness from Hinata. Sorry, but you snooze, you lose. While it wasn't a done deal that she had a serious interest in him, she was curious, and that was enough right now. They're all laying out over on the hill near our training ground. Asuma said today should be a lazy day and I got bored. Figured I could track you down and watch you blow stuff up. What you been doing? Leaning forward to look past the boy, Ino gave a wave to the demure Hyuga. Hey there, Hinata-san. Long time. Nodding to her, Hinata would always be polite. Likewise, Ino-san. Thinking over this development and not liking it, Hinata sat up a little straighter. Naruto-kun and I have been training all morning. Turning to the newest addition, Naruto nodded quickly. Yeah, we have. Hinata is super awesome and packs a mean punch. He missed the look that passed between the two girls. Does she? Maybe we'll have to spar too. Oh ho, maybe the timid girl was growing a spine after all. Well, she had a long time to go before she could stand up to the gossip queen. Hinata turned back to her own dish, silently ordering another. I wouldn't mind a spar, Ino-san. Could be worthwhile. Ignoring what sitting up so straight was doing to her shirt, Hinata could not back down in the face of her enemy right now. Relaxing into her own stool and then adjusting her hair over her shoulder, Ino nodded as her own veggie ramen came. I'm sure it will be. Oh, it was on Hyuga, trying not to laugh at the scene unfolding before her. Ayam turned back to her father with a grin. While he was doing his best to focus on making food and dealing out orders, she could see the smirk on his face. Her little brother was so popular. Oh, she couldn't wait to tease him about this later, when the two youngsters weren't around trying to stake their claim. Deciding to nudge the boat, so to speak, Ayam leaned a new bowl in front of Naruto while taking away his small stack. So Naruto, anything new going on with you besides training? How are your teammates doing? Bring up Sakura that always got a rise out of him. Shrugging and waving his chopsticks about, Naruto dimmed only a little. While Sasuke said he was going to train like crazy and make sure I didn't get ahead of him. Not like he can beat me anyway. Ah, sorry, Ino-chan. He only too late remembered her crush on the broody boy. Ah, don't worry about it, that crush stuff was for the academy. We're ninja now, we gotta focus, right? She saw how being a fangirl wasn't working for Sakura, and no one would accuse Ino of not being able to learn from others' mistakes. Mismatched purple and blue eyes locked on the girl. Naruto's opinion of her ticked up a few notches. God, I wish Sakura would get that message. She's always on about the stick in the mud. I mean, he's warmed up a bit since we've been on a team, but she's still the same old Sakura. Maybe before he had really focused on his own training, he would probably be the same. But with all the hard work and progress he made, it was easy to see how far behind the pinkette was getting. Have you offered to train with Sakura-san? It was Hinata who garnered his attention now, leaning forward just slightly more than proper while looking up at the male blonde. Oh, score one for the quiet one. Was that a blush on Naruto's face? Yeah, I've tried. But she always blows me off, so I gave up a while ago. Says something about it'll affect her figure or whatever. I mean, we're ninja. As much as we work out and train, you gotta eat all you can. Not like it's easy for us to put on the weight. Naruto was a testament to that. Ever since he had upped his training, he was almost always hungry. Good thing mission pay was pretty decent and his apartment was dirt cheap. Ino grimaced for only a moment. That cheap little hussy. So she had some boobs already. But that wasn't everything. So do you like girls with a little weight on them then, Naruto-kun? Attempting a decent lowered tone, she was declaring war. Naruto finished his last bowl with a satisfied smile. I mean, everyone should be healthy. Starving yourself is no good. Point of the question flying way over his head. But it was enough for the girls on either side of him. Well, Naruto-kun, since you're finished, would you like to continue training? Hinata herself put down her last bowl. Only slightly behind the boy, she'd show her dedication in her own way. Take that stick, girl. Shaking his head, Naruto held up a scroll. Actually, I gotta run to the Hokage Tower first. I forgot Gigi summoned me about something with the mission. Then I gotta hit the library. Mismatched eyes turning to the Hyuga, his bright smile had the girl swooning. But we can train tomorrow. I still have another couple of free days. Seeing the girl nod in return, Naruto did the polite thing and turned to Ino. I know you'll probably be with your own team, but you're welcome to join us too, Ino-chan. Oh, you never know, it could be fun. I'll let you know later. Waving as the boy paid for his meal, and leaving enough to cover Hinata's and hers, he was out the door and down the street before both girls turned on each other. Listen up, princess. Just 'cause you've liked him for a long time doesn't mean no one else can show interest. You've had plenty of time to make a move, says the hussy that jumps from newest fad to newest fad. I'm actually interested in Naruto-kun. What about you? It's hard. Things were escalating a little too quickly. Okay, time out. Ayam clapped her hands, seeing a reason to intervene now that the clueless boy was gone. Seeing both girls looking up to her with questioning looks, the pseudo-elder sister grinned. You both know Naruto wouldn't approve of you fighting like this. So let's set some ground rules. Seeing as both girls were paying attention, knowing that if Big Sis Ayam said something Naruto would listen, and that also would be true if she decided to tank their chances. Use your minds, not your fists. I know ninja are a more physical bunch, but Naruto doesn't have a lot of people he calls friends, and seeing two friends fighting would crush him. 2. No tricks, at least on Naruto. 3. This is neutral ground. If you're all here, you're here as friends. Got it. Sitting and thinking about it for a moment, the more diplomatic Hyuga had no problem agreeing. That's fair, I am San. She'd spar with her father for a week straight before giving up to Ino. Big sis makes the rules. Ino could play the game, however, and knew it better than the wallflower. This was going to be easy peasy. Smiling and nodding, I am motioned to the door. Then off you go, unless you'd like to order more without Naruto here. Seeing both girls eye each other before shaking their heads and leaving, Tucci leaned over to his daughter. Why is every ninja that comes through here so crazy? Shrugging, Ayam started collecting empty bowls. I think that's just ninja dad. I think they're all a little cracked. Down the road and making great time to the tower, Naruto was in high spirits. He got to have lunch with probably his two best friends outside of his team. Ayam seemed to like them, and they agreed to train with him. What more could today ask for? Bounding into the building and slowing only moderately at the stairs, the Uzumaki was before the Hokage's secretary after only a few moments. Naruto Uzumaki, answering the Hokage's summons, shuffling some papers around before shooting the boy a bored look. The Chunin guard nodded before waving him through. Go on, he was expecting you a while ago. Missing the boy chuckle and bow as he walked away. The wondered if he could finally take lunch. Inside the office, closing the door behind him, Naruto was met with his GG leaning back into his chair, pipe in hand. With a groan and a weary smile, the Hokage made eye contact with Naruto. It's good to see you, my boy. Took you long enough to stop by. Feeling bad that he hadn't been able to check up on the boy. He could at least give him some good news today. Sorry, Gigi. Woke up and started training right away. Wait, Hinata-chan joined me today, and we had lunch too. Oh, and Ino-chan stopped by as well. And Dash, chuckling and cutting the boy off. Sarutobi could always appreciate Naruto's energy. I'm sorry, Naruto. As much as I would love for you to tell me all about your day, you are a bit late, and I have something to give you before continuing other duties. He was not looking forward to another council meeting. Did they really need his input in order to change a street name? Scratching his neck, Naruto nodded. Sorry, Gigi. So what's up? Reaching into his desk, the elder ninja pulled out a scroll and leaned forward to hand it to Naruto, who took it slowly and waited for an explanation. We forgot about it during your debriefing of your mission. But because you were the one to solely take down the demon brothers, their bounty also goes to you. So that's your extra payment. Be responsible with it. Sarutobi had watched the boy long enough to know he'd just buy more ramen with it at most. Boy saved quiet a lot of money that way, already thinking of hitting the weapons shop. He needed scrolls and sealing ink. Thanks a lot, Gigi. This'll help out a ton. Standing a little straighter, Naruto gave his Hokage a laid-back thumbs up, nodding and waving the boy away with a smile. Sarutobi starting piling together his paperwork. Go on now and take care of yourself. Watching the boy turn and run off, he wondered briefly if he could get some time with his favorite book. Naruto, however, was already down the stairs and making a break for the outside world. Lunch with his friends and now extra pay. Today was just about perfect, and he knew just what he needed to finish out such a great day. The weapons shop owner Higurashi-san had been talking about some explosive liquid the other day. Nitrous, well, nitro something or other. And he just had to get some of it to play with. It was time to get back to his other favorite thing in the whole world. Several days and a much poorer Naruto later. All of the Genin members of Team 7 were looking at their sensei with disgruntled looks. Though it was Sasuke who spoke up first. You want to run that by us again? Naruto wiggled a finger in his ear. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had something crazy in my ear just now. Cheeky brats. Kakashi was just showing them how proud he was of them by signing them up for the next Chunin exams. I think the Chunin exams will be good for you. And plus, they're here in the village, so you'll have the home field advantage, which is a big plus. Less likely for anything to happen to you. Sure, they hadn't graduated all that long enough, but they had already been through a lot. They had talent. And if they happened to actually make it further than, say, Kurenai's team or Asuma's team, he'd win a pretty decent wager too. He wouldn't even consider his team not making it further than the other sensei's teams, because giving up his book was blasphemy. I mean, do you think we're ready? Sakura was trying to be a voice of reason here, thinking of possibly her own shortcomings for once. Shrugging, it was Sasuke who spoke up. I mean, it would be good experience. It's not like we're expected to make Chunin as rookies anyway. We could see what we have to look forward to. Naruto agreed and said as much. Plus, we could show off, and you never know. Wouldn't it be super cool if we did make Chunin first try? Ever the optimist, Naruto was all for full steam ahead. Passing the kids their information sheets, he nodded to them before getting ready to go. Well, there are your forms. Fill them out and meet at the designated location in 2 days. And don't get into any trouble. Looking pointedly at Naruto, the Jounin left in a swirl of leaves. Looking at each other, the three got comfortable in their training ground, now willing to take it seriously now that their teacher had left. It was Naruto who held up a finger first. So do we really want to do this? Sasuke nodded. I do. It'd be a good test of our skills to see how far we've come. And personally, to see how much further he had to go before reaching his older brother. Sakura made a show of sighing heavily before nodding. It'd be good for learn something new. Plus, we do things as a team, so if you both want to do it, then I'm in. She was trying to warm up to the blonde and not treat him as she had before. It was easier now that he wasn't asking her out all the time. Naruto nodded. So what do you think, going into an unexpected situation? Should we be worried about anything? Sakura shrugged. We have our passcodes in case someone tries to take our place or we get separated. Maybe spying options? If we're fighting against other teams, it'd be good to have some idea of how to spy on others and relay information. Book smart she was, that knowledge could be applied when she was focused. Shrugging, Naruto made several clones. I mean, I kinda have that covered. Sasuke saw where the mistake was, however. Remember the bridge? Unless you've already made them, you might be at a disadvantage. Remembering the blood on his face, that missing eye, no. They were alive and here now, that was what mattered. Sakura tapped a clone. Couldn't you transform a few? Turn them into pieces of your clothes? Or maybe something small so it wouldn't be noticed moving around. Like a bug? Sure, you wouldn't get past an adhering, but plenty of others would be fooled. Thinking about it, Naruto looked at all of this clones, about a dozen or so, before trying to plan it out. How about 6 of your transform into beetles? While 3 can transform into fake kunai and 3 are fake shuriken? Watching the clones nod and do as they were told. With puffs of smoke, the requested items and insects were on the ground before them all. All of the bugs quickly disappeared into his jacket, while he pocketed the kunai and shuriken into a special pocket. Funny, like this, because they're so much smaller they should probably last much longer. I'll experiment with it today and tomorrow to get an idea for how long they can last this way. Thanks, Sakura. I never would have thought of using my clones this way. Nodding, Sakura had a superior smirk on her face. And that's why I'm the smart one, and you're the explosion nut. Sasuke shrugged. Anything else we should maybe worry about? Sakura giggled. Being vastly outnumbered? I'd have to be dead, Sakura-chan. Being vastly overpowered? It was Sasuke with the thoughtful question. Naruto almost immediately wanted to boast that that wouldn't happen. But he too remembered Zabuza and Haku. I could use my clones to force some distance, help us regroup and decide to either fight or retreat. Sakura nodded. I wish I had the chakra to reliably use the Shunshin like you. It'd help. Sasuke stood up for her. I can't use it well either right now, so we'll have to rely on Naruto for distraction. It's what he's best at after all. I want to be offended, but I can't be. Spending another half an hour thinking about possible scenarios and plans. The 3 Chunin hopefuls all stood at the sound of Naruto's stomach grumbling. Are you ever not hungry? Sakura was looking sidelong at the boy. Sasuke stuck between them as per their new norm. I train tons, of course I'm always hungry. That reminded him he'd have to take the training seals off during the exam. Wouldn't do to be slowed down. Joking and laughing as they made it back to the village proper. It was a distracted Konohamaru that slammed into their pink teammate. Hey, watch where you're going. Ugh, why don't you watch it? With a forehead that big it's amazing you don't fall over on your face. Giving the girl the stink eye, both of his friends and Naruto were trying to warn him. What was that? The low tone and growl were all Naruto needed to know. You better run, Konohamaru. Seeing the girl getting angry, the grandson of the Hokage did just that, turning tail and running as fast as his legs could carry him. Sakura was hot on his heels. You know, should we be worried she can't keep up with an academy student? Naruto was leaning over to Sasuke as they followed much slower and much further back. Depressed is a better word. Sighing at the skill of their third teammate, the reforming broodster wasn't sure how to help her get over her habits. You know, if you told her you liked girls who could fight, she'd probably start training more than me. Naruto had his hands behind his head, more comfortable than usual on the topic of the girl he used to like. Huh. Finally over that crush? Yeah, I guess so. Seems to dumb now. Chasing after someone who barely knows you exist. Ow! Hey, watch where you're going, brat. How about I put you in your place? Not recognizing the voice, Sasuke and Naruto both blurred ahead. Naruto taking to the roof and scattering clones, and Sasuke stayed low and angled into the alley the kids had tried to hide in. Coming up and stopping in front of Sakura, Sasuke sized up the newcomer. Clad in a black bodysuit and purple face paint, the teenager was holding Konohamaru by the front of his shirt. Behind him and obscured slightly by a wrapped bundle on his back was a blonde girl with her hair up in 4 pigtails, wearing a black battle dress and fishnet stockings. A large war fan was on her back along with a deep frown. Leave him alone, Kankuro. We're not here to bully kids. Kid needs to learn some manners. Why don't I break a finger or two and then we can go Temari? A sadistic grin on the teen's face, Sasuke frowned but noticed movement along the rooftop. You might want to let the Hokage's grandson go before something bad happens to you. Sasuke was now completely relaxed, waiting for the fun. Like I give a damn. Kid shouldn't have run into me. Within a breath, many things changed at once. Konohamaru was forcibly used as a Kawarimi focus, replaced by a much larger and grinning black and orange-clad blonde who immediately hugged the face-painted teen. Ever meet an exploding clone? While the clone itself couldn't explode, he was certainly covered in enough exploding tags to make up for it. Kankuro. Wait, Temari didn't get to finish her sentence. A very sharp blade held to her neck. When did he get behind her, threatening such an important person just days before the Chunin exams? That's plucky. Naruto's tone was cold, and for one reason. No one was going to threaten his friends, especially not the kids. Finding themselves in a standoff, a third voice came from the tree. I'm sorry for my siblings. Please release them. I'll have them disciplined when we return to our hotel. We're here for the Chunin exams. The last of the 3-man sand team, Sabaka no Gaara had his arms crossed while his ever-present sand gourd was vibrating slightly. Sakura stepped forward now, signaling to Naruto that they had Konohamaru. Please remember, your guests here. Please don't make trouble. Watching the glacial blonde remove his sword from Temari's neck before jumping away, the grinning clone poofed himself out of existence. Kankuro released his breath that he had been holding, before puffing himself up to give them all a piece of his mind. Kankura, enough, or I'll kill you. That froze the older boy in his place. More than a little unnerved about the dynamic between the 3 teammates, Sasuke stepped forward. You? Redhead? What's your name? Sabaku no Gaara. And yours? The blonde too. Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki. We'll be waiting for you in the exams. A cold grin on his face, Gaara nodded. You better be. I'm looking forward to having worthy opponents. All 3 siblings left in a swirl of sand after that. Turning to each other after Naruto rejoined them from the high ground, they all had to wonder, just what kind of monsters were they going to meet during this exam? Chapter 6. The day was bright with a clear sky and warm winds that welcomed all the visitors to the village hidden within the Leave Junin's team, readied themselves as they made there. So are we all full on kunai and shuriken? Hi Sakura, we're good. Sasuke was patting his own pouches just in case. You got your transformed clones and plenty of sealing ink just in case. Pinkette now turned to the black and orange BL. Yup. And some extra stuff just in case we need a big distraction. Said Blonde had a huge grin on his face. Not everything can be solved with explosions, Naruto. Sasuke's deadpan tone had Naruto chuckling. Nonsense, that just means you haven't made a big enough explosion yet. As all 3 reached the front of the testing building, It was Sakura who stepped ahead of the boys and turned to face type like you too. But I think we're a great team. Let's watch each other's backs, do our best, and come back alive. Bumping a fist with the girl much to her barely held back delight, Sasuke had his patented smirk on his face. Let's make it to the finals. Show 'em we mean business. Naruto bumped his fist into his teammate's own, Mismatch's eyes switching between them both. Screw that. Let's aim telse. His friends shaking their heads, the team made their way inside. Finding no one and making their way up the first sarging with that looked like guards to the exam room. There were plenty of teams there, including a few come Konoha, who held him back. Keeping her voice low, she nodded back to the hallway. The exam is supposed to be on the 3rd floor, not the 2nd. Saiti over and then nod. They took the hallway to wrap around the building and take a second set of stairs, reaching to see their sensei waiting for them. Holding up a hand in greeting, the masked ninja was all smiles. I see you made it, I'm glad. If you hadn't come all together, all three looked at each other before turning back to the sensei. Sasuke taking the lead. You're the one that taught us, nodding with pride. Kakashi stepped aside. Then good luck, and I'll be seeing you again soon. The 3 genin walked smile. And then they were inside the exam room, and greeted by the disgruntled faces of older genin and out-of-village Naruto and Sasuke unconsciously stepped slightly ahead of Sakura, casually keeping a hand near his weapon pouch when no attack came. Instead they were met with more of their own rookie genin. Yo-ho, forehead. Long time no see. Ino made her appearance, dragging Shikamaru and Choji behind her. Almost controlling her eyes and crossing her arms, the last member of Team 7 scoffed. If they let you in here, pig, then we for sure W another team. Hinata, Kiba and the quiet Shino made their way over. Kiba all grins and swagger. Look what the dog Dragto come save your ass or something? Not having kept up with his former classmate and ignoring an annoyed Hinata, he, took on some missing ninja, learned some neat tricks. Can't wait to show ya. While Naruto was working Orb him like that cut a little too close to home. Turning to the boy, it was Hinata who bowed. Sorry, Naruto-kun. I didn't know if it was okay to tell them about your miss the chance. Seeing the boy's face soften, he nodded. No sweat. Feel free to boast about me all you want, Hinata-chan. Browse just in community forum betas anime/manga, anime, Naruto/anime/Naruto/plus. Oi, you lot are too loud. Can't you read the room at all? Walking up to the group of 9 was an older Konoha ninja. We stewed over them all by a bit. Who are you to tell us what to do? Shikamaru was half paying attention now, which for him was more than enough. My name is Kabuto, and I'm a veteran of these exams. Why, I've participated several times so far. Though I've failed AC wondering why they would listen to an apparent serial failure, it was Sasuke who piped up next. So you must have Sankahai? Pretending to mull it over, Kabuto pulled out a set of blank cards. Well, these are my info cards. Locked away with my currently participating in these exams. Just give me a name and I should be able to help you out. Kiba worked his way forward again. Okay then, let's go with Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki. Singling out both, the beast stood between the two. Add in Sabaku no Gara. Sasuke lifted a finger, wondering why Kiba was so interested in his team. Nodding, Kabuto shuffled his cards. It takes a little fun out of it if you have their full name, but I got M. Pulling 1 OU, Sasuke Uchiha. Sole heir to the Uchiha clan. Member of Team 7 under Hitaki Kakashi. Multiple D rank, but there is a Seirdujustu, the Sharingan. Shuffling through the cards again, he pulled forth another. Naruto Uzumaki, apparently the lost special skills mentioned, same team as Sasuke Uchiha and completed the same mission, turned a rank. Unknown damage, and he pulled forth a third card. Sabaku no Gara, son of the Kazekage and leader of his team. Several C, B, and a rank scratch on him. Obviously a foe to be concerned about. Stashing his cards away with a sigh, Kabuto felt like ribbing Sam the Sound Village. Nothing of value on those teams. Overhearing the boy and growling, one boy wearing gauntlets was ready to make Kabuto eat his words. Want to say that, and his team ready to start a brawl. They were interrupted by an explosion from the front of the room. All of you better sit down and shut up. Your proctor is here, and if I see any fighting without my go-ahead, I'll toss you a large and loud quickly cowing anyone thinking of speaking up against him. Now Chunin assistants are going to come arrow take your place as we will begin the first round. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke all nodded to each other before allowing themselves to be led away to their seats. It was Abe for the now named Ibiki listed off their rules. It's real simple, 1 point for everything incorrect answer. 2 points for every time you get caught cheating. If you have nor 10 minutes left, I'll be asking a 10th question. No talking. You ready? Don't care. You have 1 hour, begin. Naruto had been sat next to Hinata and some no-name guy he'd never seen before. Grinning at the flushed girl, he focused thinking the rules over. He didn't have much of a clue on how to go from here. A quick glance showed that these questions except for one about explosive note yield. He knew that one. Writing out his answer, he took a subtle look around and floating sand-eye, someone using mirrors, and was Kiba talking to his dog? So everyone else figured out to cheat was TH making a mental command to a couple of his bug-transformed clones. He sat back and waited. He could see Hinata's furtive decided to ignore her for now since he didn't want to get them both in trouble, for now trying to reassure her that he was Candidate 41. You're out. You and your team are to leave at once. A Chunin called out, escorting a 3-man cell from Stowback and relaxed for a bit, listening to teams get culled and removed, while he waited for one of his clones to dispel. Wansers from Sakura's test who he figured for sure wouldn't need to cheat on this test. Quickly jotting his answers down for real while crossing his hands behind his head. Man clones ruled. Fiddling with his pencil and waiting it out, Naruto was brought out of his half-daze as Ibiki drew everyone's attention agate. We have your final question. But there's a catch. Take the question and get it wrong and you're out for good. Never try again next with a weaker proctor. Make your decision before your time is up. Naruto went back to ignoring the proctor and the test in general. Kakashi-sensei had told them to treat it like a mission. Could and couldn't take. Sometimes you just had to roll the dice and live with the consequences of that. Knowing that Sakura would follow Sasuke's lead, the blonde decided to relax. If he had paid attention to the heiress next to him, he confidence boost from her relaxed crush. But around them candidates were beginning to crack and drop like flies. By the head dropped out and Ibiki was grinning. Well, how about it? Are you lot sure you want to take this question? Fancy being stuck genin forever? Finally getting bored and needed to speak up, Naruto slammed a hand on his desk. Oh, come on already. Either give the kfail, I'll just have to be the first genin to Hokage ever. Believe that, you old goat. Frowning and looking directly at the blonde with odd eyes, Ibiki went silent for a moment. Though after a bit and with some stones on you, kid. Well, don't worry. Everyone left here passes the test. Ignoring the various outcries and protest bandana and began to explain the reasoning behind this information gathering test. How sometimes a mission could and leaked. That you didn't get to choose not to take the mission at all unless you wanted to be a traitor and leave your villain the hard way, and using his scarred and tortured head as an aid, he showed he was living proof. Before he could the windows. Spinning and launching kunai at the floor and ceiling. A banner unfurled next to a grinning and scantily clad, the banner proclaiming her as sexy and single. The newest jonin to grace them was pointing in the air. Your next procto leaning from behind the banner, Ibiki sighed. His carefully built-up aura of menace suddenly gone. You're early, again? Well, you're too slow and I was bored. Looking back among the genin, adjusting her jacket just so and relishing in the ATT. We have a talented group this time, what can I say? Turning back to the genin, Anko had a full-blown smirk. Well, I'll be knocking those numbers down to less than half. Listen, got 15 minutes. Seeing no one move, her eye began to twitch. I think I made a mess. Some poor soul muttered out. She is pretty hot. If you don't get moving, I'm gonna start launching kunai. Anko was back in a good mood as every team was forming up. Shrugged. Anyone I should be worried about? No one you shouldn't expect already. Waving a salute, Anko was out the window as well. 10 minutes and several panting teams later, Anko was standing before the assembled group. Holding up a sheet of paper is my own personal playground, affectionately nicknamed the Forest of Death. Inside you will find plenty of local flora. Your team will be given one of 2 scrolls, one or heaven or one of earth. Your task is to take another team's scroll and tower within 5 days. Any questions? A plump hand rose from the crowd. What about food? Anko's grin only grew. Why, the forest will provide. Either it'll feed you, or you'll feed it. Motioning to a tent nearby, Y held up a piece of paper. Everyone will be provided a consent for that they must sign before being given a scroll. The Foss held do. There are no rules inside the forest, so some advice. She paused while looking them all over. Don't die. Team 7 signed their forms and handed them in, retrieving a scroll of heaven for their trouble, which Sakura immediate sealing it away on a storage seal marked on his left should that he could just reach without taking off his jacket. He weighed and feeling the associated seal paper burn away. He felt both the restriction on his chakra and his body lifted. He did him to notice it, but he'd have to look into that later. Seeing the blonde moving with a new bounce in his step, Sakura sighed. Do we even want to know what crazy seal UJ? Shrugging, Naruto followed behind Sasuke as they found their gate and waited for the start of the test. Nothing crazy, forgot about. He bounced in place and waved his arms this way and that. He felt like he could fly at the moment. And yet somehow I just know you overdid it. Sakura wanted to smack the oblivious blonde for his antics sometimes. BSO, at least this was somewhat expected. Anything else experimental we should be concerned about? Tilting his head from side to side in thought, Naruto donned a foxy grin and gave his friends a thumbs up. If you see me or something I just threw, you'd better just start running with me. No questions. Sasuke sighed. That's just our standard procedure now, you maniac. Training with you has clued us in to your nonsense. Explosions are life. Explosions are going to get you killed. But it'll be flashy as hell. Hearing a buzzer and their gate open up, all three looked into the darkness of the forest, and it was Sakura who punch about who's a bigger idiot after we get to the tower. I don't want to spend any more time than I need to in this shitty playfield and followed after her. How long do you think it'll take before she figures out we do it on purpose? Give it a few years, she's book smart but too trusting. Catching up to the long-haired girl and flanking her, Naruto immediately set off into the trees. So what's the idea? Hunt down some teams right away and get our scroll or make our battle mode? And the others were learning that this Naruto was much better at on the fly plans. Sakura twirled over a branch and launched herself a little higher for the hell of it. Given our manpower advantage, we don't get a scroll by then, we'll hide out and wait. Sasuke as well agreed. Plus, if we get to the tower early, we'll have an advantage against the other teams. Of course, Naruto nodded and they continued on in silence for the next hour, casually making a serpentine path towards the tower. Waving three fingers. Rain team ahead. I've got a group of clones on M. Want to take him out? Sasuke nodded. Do it, try for non-lethal please. Naruto nodded and created a clone that immediately dispersed, slightly confusing Sakura. What was that one for? Naruto poked his head. Sending simple mental commands isn't too bad. Go here or stop there, but making a backclone with my memories that then disperses and sends the information to all of my clones. Nodding and understanding how it worked now, Sakura fell behind the two boys while producing a kunai in her right hand through the trees and vines. Sasuke and Sakura followed after him to come upon a group of struggling and hog-tied rain-saluted Naruto before jumping back up into the tree cover. Where'd you get the rope? Trade secret. Baka. Knocking the other ninja out and rifling in their pockets and packs. It was Sasuke who came upon another heaven scroll. If we run into a leaf team. Sounds good to me. Naruto was already looking around and scanning the trees. Sakura sighed as she helped Sasuke drag the three genin against a tree and leaned them up against it. They'd be pissed moving then. We still have a lot of daylight after all. Both boys nodded and they were quickly back into the trees, and O frowned and twitched for a moment, drawing the other two's attention. And he mimed a fist crushing something. That Gaara kid, he can control sand. Crushed one of my clones with it. Sakura nodded. Being from the sand village, that has to be an amazing skill to have. Better steer clear of them. Yeah, having the memories of getting crushed once is more than enough. But Naruto didn't get to finish as a large burr Naruto. Almost instantly they were set upon by a grass ninja, who was going after Sasuke like it was his only goal in life. Naruto, however, was trying to right himself and return back to his team. Some was trying to split them up, and he was something large hissing at him, however had him looking over his shoulder. Oh, you gotta be kidding me! A snake easily 3 wide, ready to swallow him whole. I blame the team. Disappearing from sight, Naruto vanished into the maw of the young snake swallowed and looked around lazily for its next meal, before something stung from inside its gullet. Retching once mouth, the reptile began to thrash and twist into the trees and dirt while obviously in pain. And just as suddenly as it had carved its way out from its soft underbelly, with furious motion, the sword twisted and turned several different ways from the snake's belly, landing on a knee while holding the sword over his shoulder. Standing and shaking himself free off saw that, so maybe getting eaten by a snake can be my own secret. Man, I'm just racking up once-in-a-lifetime events, throwing him off a bit. He noticed it was much longer than before. The tip was still missing, looking like the start of the coot. Naruto decided he didn't have the time right now. Readying it on this back with a roll of bandages, he crossed his fin. Sasuke was already panting and aching from where this extremely skilled ninja had him on the ropes. Even with his Dojitan, the enemy Nin hit like Kakashi-sensei. Frowning as he saw a clone of Naruto flit behind a tree, Sasuke relented that, "So this is the vaulted Uchiha. I'm not impressed, but I guess I shouldn't have gotten my hopes up leftovers." Quickly squashing down the rage that fired up in his chest, Sasuke leapt from one tree to another, twisting in midair and then by surprise, the trailing ninja wire locked them against the tree Sasuke had just fled. Without missing a beat, Sasek technique, Katan, Gokaku no Justu, the larger-than-normally fireball slammed into the ninja following the ninja wire. Swaz sure the other Nin was down and out before releasing the seal and panting for breath. However, that was moot as the ground. "Oh my, struck a nerve, did I? Oh well." The Nin's voice slowly changing as he kept talking. Sasuke and a freaking out sack with a yank. The skin was pulled away to show a pale-skinned man with purple tattoos on his face. "Who are you? Do you even want our scroll or not?" Sakura's mind was racing. The Nin hadn't asked for the scroll, and the were so much better than Sasuke was also something bothering her. "Scroll? What use would I have with that? I'm just here to test out little Sasuke-chan, and I'm finding him very lacking." Tunic with an purple obi rope tied around his waist, the intruder was licking his lips with an unnaturally long tongue. Let didn't get to finish as a fist connected with his face and launched him away. The real Naruto landing in the middle of his teammates, he had both by the shoulder. "What do you say? Time to go?" Sasuke nodded, pride losing over survival this once. This guy is definitely not a genin. Something is majorly wrong with having to dodge another clone that lunged for him and dispersing it. Orochimaru frowned. "You can't run from me for long." That attempted to grab him, dispersing it with a knife hand to the neck. Then another dodge from a kunai with an explode ninja trying to catch up to the genin while clones delayed him however they could. At first he applauded the boy for Smawa's beyond annoyed with them any longer, and he wouldn't have time to give Sasuke his seal, which was out of the quad a group of clones. Orochimaru missed one that had just materialized from behind him. How? What Naruto hadn't paid attention to in his training was exactly why the Shunshin wasn't good to battle. Simply put, noticeable, and any Nin worth their salt would see it coming from a mile away. However, clones had no real mass, and as that also meant anyone looking out for the technique wouldn't be able to detect it unless they were a sensor-type backpoint. So when the lone clone shined behind Orochimaru and successfully latched on, those memories were going toeshole. This clone just armed with the specially made bracelet was grinning as they both exploded, tumbling in a hasty kawarimi. Still smoking slightly, Orochimaru was now on the back pedal as multiple clones tried to pee him with hands raised already, and that explosion sent him tumbling into a completely different direction to land in a heap murderous glint in his eye. A slightly charred Orochimaru looked through the trees. "Oh, I'm going to enjoy killing you." Several clones materializing around and above him, each one armed with several vials of a slightly yellow and brown liquid. That team. The resulting conflagration of light and sound rocked the very earth. Running as fast as they could, shielded by a brace of clones, while two more clone groups each with appropriate copies and cut their routes over each other's before breaking away completely. The real group were quick to find a hole and catching their breath. Naruto commanded his clones to conceal themselves and wait for orders. While they hadn't heard, teams still held their breath as they waited. After an agonizing half an hour passed them by, they finally allowed themselves. "Who the hell was that freak? He was waxing you pretty good there, Sasuke." Too tired to argue Sasuke choose, instead to give the blonde his finger estimation of his IQ. Well, whoever that was, we need to stay far away from him. Naruto nodded. No problem there. He's either in a training ground-sized crater in pieces, or at least hurt enough for some that nitroglycerin stuff more from now on. And I told you all problems could be solved with more explosions. Hi, much boom, very safe now. Thank you, Lord Naruto. Sasuke was laying on the sarcasm thick, but he was happy. Ah yes. Please, praise me and my explosions more. It's my fuel. Just what we need. A Naruto with an even bigger ego. Sakura was smiling all the same, happy that for the moment at twisting his head quickly in a different direction. Naruto's eyes were wide. You've got to be kidding me. Yup, I take it back, you're still an idiot. Naruto nodded without any other reaction. One of the decoy teams is down. Same guy. Was able to get out his name tire neck, well, the clones. You get it. Naruto couldn't remember how many fake teams he had made, but hopefully it de-slammed head to tits into their exam proctor and paid the price. He knew he was going to be feeling this in the morning. Sakura looked over to the slightly shaking boy before reaching into her small pack and handing him a ration bar. Just like clones, we got things here. The hole they found themselves in was barely big enough for the three of them as it was. On the belly like they had to get in. Nodding and scarfing the bar down, Naruto laid back against his sword and closed his eyes. I'll try directly the guy he deals with Gaara. After that he was quiet, eyes moving rapidly behind his eyelids. It's creepy when he does that. Sakura shrugged. It's the best way for his to coordinate with a massive amount of clones. How many do you think he am? Sasuke shrugged, rubbing a sore shoulder. Bet it was close to 1,000 with how depleted his chakra feels. Bet he did plan with one big drawback. Naruto making too many clones would either have them run free uncontrolled, or he'd have to give detailed mental orders. He'd only done it once before in training, but this was a real field test that was holding up, so. He said Orochimaru, didn't he? Name ring any bells? Sasuke was looking at Sakura directly now. Thinking about it and paling as her mind came to an impossible conclusion. She nodded slowly. One man comes to mind. Densetsu no Sannin, legendary ninja trained by the Hokage himself. Looking at Sasuke, the girl's heart dropped, and he leaning back against tree roots. Sasuke nodded. Gotta be my eyes. I'm good. But I'm just a genin. So he's someone to. They both nodded and looked at the busy blonde beside them. Guess we're here for the night. Better settle in, no fire. I'm having a clone cover the entrance with bushes and branches while some others set traps. We should be good here. Concentration. It's so creepy when he does that. I'll take this over the sexy no jutsu. Point. On and cut. A certain pedo snake is on the prowl and the weave made it to the second exam. Woohoo. Omaru was used to a lot of things in his life up to this point. Ebisu chasing him and trying to get him to study or Fogren-san and not by his name. His tag-along friends who he valued just as much as the boss, Naruto. Though he wooed hunting down his rival, he could honestly say what they found was not what they expected on this hot summer day. Gasping and panting for breath, Konohamaru noted 2 new additions to Naruto's daily afternoon training. Both older girl there developing frames. They both were doing push-ups while Naruto himself was between them and facing the opposite blush on the boy's face from the exercise or his view. Though from the lack of bindings on either girl, Moegi was ins her friends into the bushes. I am really glad you two took me up on my offer to train together. But are you sure you're okay? You're best to keep his eyes firmly latched onto their own. He wasn't a pervert, damn it, but he was still a growing boy. Gasping as her rep count reached the hundreds, Ino shook her head, long ponytail swaying behind her and Bang's plastwold mind getting all sweaty with you whiskers. So I'm here to stay. Hinata might bow out though her arms next to her, her own blush coming more from her wardrobe than the activity. Hinata had to give Ino points for the innuendo. But 2, maybe you could help? Stretch me out, Naruto-kun? Oh, maybe that was too bold. If her father ever heard her, she'd mose, watching the trio continue their workout from the bushes. Konohamaru looked at his friends. Should we go out here? Moegi shook her head quickly. Don't you dare. There's a major battle going on and we can't interrupt. Mentally Shiwazudon looked at Konohamaru inside. They're just working out. What battle? It's a different kind of battle. I wouldn't expect you boys to understand. I hope I never do. Udon sniffled. You said it, buddy. Chapter 7. Team 7 could admit that the night within the confines of their tree hole wasn't too bad. It was still pretty warm and humid, so blankets weren't needed, but trying to sleep on a tree root or dirt was not the most comfortable thing. Though as Sakura made her way out first, pushing aside the brush cover that Naruto's clone had put there to conceal them, she stretched and smiled. Oh, it feels good to be out of there. Think we lost him? Sasuke was next, doing his own stretches and looking around and up into the trees. Sure hope so. I'd rather not have my eyes cut out by that freak. The last and slightly uncoordinated member of their team dragged himself out. Standing with a little help from Sasuke, Naruto was looking around with a dazed look. I think I overdid it last night. Sakura was almost instantly in his face, looking into his eyes and turning his head left and right. How long did you stay up commanding your clones? Getting a non-committal answer, Sakura watched his slowly adjusting pupils and sighed. Just great. Sasuke walked up, intrigued. What's wrong with him? Motioning to the blonde who seemed very out of it. Sakura kept him standing. Just some mental fatigue. Guess it's one of the big dangers of using the shadow clones so much. I don't know what he did last night, but looks like it pushed him. Old man is gone. Gone. Way away. Both of the normal members of Team 7 watched their teammate and had a foreboding feeling, and it was Sasuke who came out of it first. Maybe we should shove him back in the hole. Rest for another day. Sakura nodded. Probably the best idea. He's no use at all like this. However, before either teammate could think to help him back into their hole to rest, Naruto suddenly had his sword in his hand, held up to the sky. Enemies coming. Gonna get him. Gonna get. Sword crashing into the ground. From some distance away, they all began to hear explosions and screaming. Well, looks like enough of him is still there. Sorta. Sakura gave him points for that. A combat-ready but loopy and quiet Naruto. I don't know if that's an improvement. Not even a second after finishing his thought, 3 bodies were dumped into the clearing with them. All were wearing sound headbands and odd black and gray camo-styled clothes. Though they all were smoking slightly, they were groaning and moaning in pain, so still alive at least. Walking over with an uneven gait, it was a grinning Naruto that stood over the trio, sword raised high. Tell, what you want before heads go flying. Blue and purple eyes were practically glowing in the early morning light. Dosu had remembered their orders from an angry Orochimaru. Kill the blonde and test the Uchiha. Supposed to be easy. Getting blindsided by exploding clones and then set into a gauntlet of traps and even more explosions was not what he had in mind for the day. And now, the same psychotic blonde looked ready to kill them all. Wait. You want our scroll, right? We have one, an earth scroll. Take it and let us go. Tilting his head from side to side, Naruto nodded, but if anything his grin got even wider. Sound team, no team. Orochi team had a sound headband. OH. Voice clearing up for a moment. Naruto suddenly gained some focus. How about I just kill you and loot your corpses? Hooking her arm around the boy's neck and tossing him back, launching him near perfectly into the hole they had stuck themselves in. Sakura sighed. Go take a nap. A real one. Sasuke was already replacing Naruto, kunai at the ready. Yeah, you might as well hand over that scroll. 'Cause once he's out, his clones will be more free to do whatever they want. Looking up at the Uchiha survivor, Dosu looked past him at another dozen copies of the blonde. Though they didn't have copies of the sword, they all had the same crazed grin on their faces, and he did not want to deal with that explosion maniac again. Reaching into a pouch and tossing it at Sasuke's feet, Dosu was dragging Kin and Zaku away as if their lives depended on it. Looking up as all of the clones dispelled a moment later, Sasuke leaned down and picked up the scroll. Should we be concerned that a fatigued Naruto is apparently a super murderous powerhouse? Sakura shrugged. Odd conditions of the exam. Consider how much energy he usually has, and I doubt we'll have this issue again anytime in the future. Shaking off the feeling that she just jinxed them, she focused on the scroll in Sasuke's hands. Wanna carry him and we can make for the tower? Sasuke thought it over for a minute. Run through the forest with an unconscious Naruto and head straight for a possibly trap-laden tower. or rest bored out of their minds at least for another couple of hours but make the trip with everyone somewhat rest and conscious. Easy. Let's wait. I could use some more sleep too. And the trip will be a lot easier not having to lug that idiot along. Nodding and turning back to their tree, Sakura did have to concede that point. Rubbing her shoulder, just how much did that kid weigh anyway? Or was it the sword? The way he swung it around make her think it was pretty light, but tossing him like that took everything in her to do. But Team 7 did the same thing and re-situated themselves in their cave to take another few hours to rest. And it was as noon was approaching that Team 7 found themselves up and moving through the trees again. All better rested and a more awake Naruto denying anything that the other two were telling him. That sounds like something my clones would do, not me. But aren't your clones, you? Sakura was trying to use logic to get through to the boy, poor girl. Well yeah, when I make them, but after that they can go off the rails pretty fast. Looking over at Sasuke, Naruto made his own conclusion. If Sasuke took out a team while I was asleep, you could just say that, you don't have to make me feel better about sleeping through it. Sasuke rolled under a low branch before flipping back up and next to Naruto. We're telling you, it was all you. You were out of it like we'd never seen before. Try not to make that many clones again. Okay? Sasuke didn't want to consider what would happen if he made too many clones now. Never mind Naruto running out of chakra, but the idea of a Naruto with less mental roadblocks and a giant sword just did not sit well with him. Hi, no 1,000 clone rush again. Got it. As one, all three dropped to the ground and looked up at the tower now before them. Well, that was quick. Taking a mental note and noticing that he did not have any more clones wandering about, Naruto nodded. I'm all done out there. Nothing new to report. Leading the others and walking into the door before them, Sasuke was ready to be inside and past this portion of the exam. Crazy Sannin, murderous other teams, Give him Kakashi-sensei being late all the time. Coming up to a riddle on the door, Sasuke read it aloud before turning to the others. He shrugged. What do you think? Naruto was instant. That it's stupid and I have enough explosive tags to make this door open. Sakura sighed and bopped the boy before holding out her hand to him. Scroll now. Ignoring the grumbling blonde, Sakura turned to Sasuke. The other one too. When'd you get so bossy? You wanna be the Naruto Wrangler? Scroll suddenly appearing in her outstretched hand. Sakura smirked at her crush. Thought so. You both know I'm still here, right? Though he handed over their 2 heaven scrolls, he was summarily ignored. Looking both scrolls over and remembering the rules, Sakura unfurled them both and tossed them on the ground in front of them. In a small explosion of smoke, there stood their sensei. You! Good time too. Faster than any other Leaf team. Sasuke sighed with relief. Good. 'Cause this whole thing has sucked. Seeing their sensei raise an eyebrow, it was Sakura that pushed forward, silencing Naruto, who was about to begin boasting. Come on, sensei, we have a lot to tell you. And it involves legendary ninja. Legendary ninja? Pulling the hand from his mouth, Naruto bounced back into his sensei's view as the door behind them all began to open. I blew up a Sannin. What? B. The remaining 3 days of the exam found Team 7 resting and waiting on the rest of the teams to come in. Naruto had immediately passed out in their room after their sensei had made sure none of them were injured. Sasuke had given a more detailed account of the initial encounter, including details about Orochimaru's appearance and fighting style, though he didn't have much insight there. While Sakura made use of her time by for once training what she could within their room, their time in the forest showing her that she was far behind the others. But at the end of those 3 days, they found themselves in a large arena-style room surrounded by the other teams and senseis while listening to their Hokage, and then the exam proctor give a lecture and the announcement that they would be having preliminary matches. Following their sensei into the stands to wait, Sakura turned to Naruto. Are you sure you finally got enough rest? Naruto waved her off. 3 days with full night's sleep was perfect. I still think you both are overreacting. Sasuke shook his head and names began to swirl on the board above them all. I wish there was a way you could see our memories. It was kind of freaky. Looking up as Kakashi poked his shoulder, the boy sighed. Guess I'm up. Sakura cheered him on while Naruto leaned against the railing. Who's Yoroi? Sakura joined him at the rail. He's one of the Leaf guys on the same team as Kabuto, the guy who quit. Seeing Naruto gain a look of understand, they both watched as the proctor explained the rules and then jump away. Well-timed, as well as Sasuke already prepped his favored fireball and had launched it at his opponent. Yoroi was caught flat-footed by the blast, being knocked away and unconscious before he hit the ground. Well, that was quick. It's Sasuke. I may rib the team, but he's got skill. Ah, you guys have a bromance going on. Sakura, I've never done it, but I will hit a girl today if you keep it up. Giggling as it was usually the boys teasing her, she watched as the board set to scambling again while Sasuke returned to join them. Sighing with a bored look and joining them at the rail on Naruto's other side, the fast-acting Uchiha had a frown on his face. That should have been harder. That's what she said? I loathe you. Oh, shut up you two. The next match is up. Looking down into the arena, one of the Sound Ninja and Shino from Team 8 were facing off. Naruto was already back to being bored. Shino's got this. That guy is weak as hell. Sakura, however, had a different mind. Your sense of power scale is broken. He has to have some skill to be here. Almost literally stuffing his hand in his mouth to keep himself from quipping about her being here, Naruto had to think about the almost complete turnaround about his feelings surrounding his crush. Shaking it off and watching as Shino used his bugs to great effect, keeping away from Zaka's attacks before tagging him with enough bugs to render his weapons useless. See, no contest. Seeing Zaku start to rage, Sasuke frowned. He wouldn't. Watching the boy blow his own arms to bits in an attempt to continue the match, Sakura nodded. He would. Watching as medics came and tended to Zaku before carting him away, Naruto turned to his sensei. Who do you think has the best shot of making it all the way to the end? While Kakashi wanted to immediately say his cute students, of course, he watched all three of them turn to him. They had been taking this seriously, though, with some humor from the get-go. They deserved some truth. While I wanted you all to make it through to the final round, you have to put up with some real monsters here, including some veteran genin both from the leaf and most notably from the sand. I still think you all have good chances, but it'll be hard. Sakura nodded. So Gaara and anyone from Team 10? Naruto nodded as one of Gaara's teammates was now fighting in the ring against Kabuto's last teammate who stayed in to fight. Tsurugi, if the board was right. Don't they have a Hyuga on their team? Sasuke nodded. Think so. Surprised you know about them. Naruto casually dropped a bomb on them all. Oh yeah. Hinata-chan trains with me from time to time. She's told me a bit about them. Sounds like a family of sticks in the mud if you ask me. Sakura and Sasuke both started at each other from behind Naruto. The girl had worked up the nerve to talk to the boy and train with him. Sasuke sighed and handed over some Ryo to a smirking Sakura. Never underestimate a girl's intuition. What was that? Naruto looked over at Sakura in confusion. Nothing. So you train with Hinata-san sometimes? Nodding and watching Tsurugi do something freaky with his body and wrap up an apparently weakened Kankuro, Naruto explained the few days since they had been back from their mission to Wave. Yeah, her and Ino-chan trained with me a few times, really motivated too. It's crazy to think Ino-chan was just as obsessed as you were. Watching Kankuro reveal himself from the bundle of clothes that had been tossed aside while the wrapped-up one turned out to be a puppet, Naruto mentally noted both him and Tsurugi as the weird ones of the exam. Blinking in surprise while ignoring their sensei cry manly tears, Sakura tried to make sense of what her teammate just said. You said Hinata and Ino train with you? Watching the noodly boy be loaded onto a stretcher and the next match be decided, Naruto nodded. Yeah, and we got lunch a couple of times too. They've been fun to hang out with. You two should join us sometimes. Steadfastly deciding not to get in the middle of that at all, Sakura instead nodded. Sure. Maybe one day. Yeah, if what was going on what she thought was going on. She wasn't going anywhere near Naruto after team missions. Sasuke, however, didn't see the issue if both Ino and Hinata were involved. Could be Fuyuin. Receiving a kick to the shin and a pointed look from Sakura, he rolled his eyes. If we have the time. I've been ignoring clan duties after all. Looking up as the announcement board showed Ino and Sakura's names, Naruto cheered for them both. Sakura gave a tired sigh as she jumped over the rail to her fight. Wait, what kind of duties do you have that you haven't been doing? Sasuke shrugged, realizing he's never talked about it with his team. Well, technically, I'm the head of the Uchiha clan, and as such I'm supposed to be attending council meetings and such. I haven't had to until I became a full ninja, but now that I'm considered an adult, so I'm supposed to attend whenever I'm in the village. Not that it matters, I don't really have any influence at all right now. No clan of just one after all. Not that plenty of girls and women older, much older, than himself haven't offered to fix that. There was a reason Sasuke was so girl-shy. Naruto nodded. Ah, well if you need help let us know. You know we'll help you out if we can. We're your team. Watching the two girls beat the snot out of each other below, Sasuke nodded. I appreciate it, Naruto. Looking over to the boy who started cheering for Sakura, and then cheering for Ino, he normally taciturn boy side. That doesn't mean you can solve my council issues with explosions. Kakashi spoke up from behind him book. I don't know. The Sandaime has mentioned blowing up the council hall a few times in the past. Naruto hooked a thumb at their teacher. See, explosions solve everything. Rolling his eyes, Sasuke relaxed more against the dividing rail. Maybe after I finish my goal and hunt down my brother, I'll work on settling down too. Naruto nodded as both girls ran in for one final clash. Gonna quit pretending like you don't notice Sakura then? Seeing the double knockout, Naruto sighed and turned to his rival and friend. Sasuke wasn't sure what to say, but right now being honest about it all seemed to be working so far. It's not so much ignoring her. My brother, he killed everyone. I've had nightmares of him coming back and finishing the job, and I'm always worried he'll go after anyone close to me too. I don't want that to include my team. Feeling Naruto slug him in the shoulder, he looked up to the grinning boy. Then we just need to train harder, get stronger, and when it's time, we kick the shit out of your brother and make him apologize. Or blow him to bits. Both boys turned as Kakashi-sensei and Asumasini came back up to the stands, laying down Sakura and Ino where they could wait out the rest of the matches since they weren't too injured, though Ino was sporting a new short hair look. Looking his teammate over and not seeing any injuries himself, Naruto turned back to the next match. But Sasuke nudged him to get his attention. What's up, Fireboy? What about you? Ever given thought about finding out where you came from? Seeing as how they were opening up a bit at the moment, Sasuke tried the same with Naruto. Naruto thought about it for a bit, idly scratching his chin. I mean, of course I'm curious. But I asking the Hokage about it once already and got a half answer. Apparently he can't tell me about my parents yet, but when I get older he can. So it's like, I gotta wait to learn anything. Which kinda sucks. Sasuke thought about that. If the Hokage knew but said Naruto couldn't learn about it yet, did that mean his parents were somewhat important? While the Uzumaki name certainly wasn't popular, that didn't tell him much of anything. He'd seen mention of the clan in some history scrolls, but usually heavily glossed over. Maybe if Sakura was awake he could ask her. Or maybe later, as when he looked back he noticed an odd look in Kakashi-sensei's eyes. Well, even if you have to wait, at least you know that he's gonna tell you one day. So that's something. Watching Gaara's sister Temari beat back all of the attempts from the girl from Team 10 to attack her, Naruto commented on it. Bad matchup looks like. Sasuke took a moment to watch the match before nodding. You aren't wrong. Maybe if Tenten had something with more piercing power, or something more close range. Wincing as Temari's wind blast sent her into the air, only to land on her spine on the winner's fan. The Leaf Nin sighed. Or not. Kakashi spoke up this time, taking some interest and hopefully directing the conversation a bit. Sometimes you get a bad matchup, that's why it's important to vary your training and skill set so you don't get stuck with only one or two methods of attack or retreat. Specialization of skills in our field of work can be a death sentence. That was part of why he had wanted them in the exam now, to learn those lessons in a mostly controlled environment. Idly watching as Shikamaru and the last sound ninja kin fought against each other, Kakashi pointed something else out. Naruto, you've been varying your explosives recently. Why? Caught off guard by their teacher being interested in explosions for once, Naruto quickly nodded and held up an explosive note. Okay, so you know how an explosive note can be varied in power, but generally the bigger the note, the more powerful it is. Seeing Sasuke and Kakashi nod, Naruto held up a slightly bigger note, just about twice as the first one. Problem is that you can only go so big, and sure you can use more notes like I did with my suicide bracelets, but it's not efficient. So I looked into actual explosives too, and it came down to other things like explosive velocity. Velocity? Like some explosions are faster than others. Sasuke now had his interest piqued. Naruto now put his tags away, before carefully unsealing a bottle of yellow-brown liquid. Sure are. This stuff is nitroglycerin. So volatile that just tossing this bottle over my shoulder, or even just shaking it hard enough, could cause it to explode. Seeing his teammate and sensei lean away slightly, Naruto sealed it away into his pouch again. Plus, just that one bottle, about as big as my sealing ink, is equal to about 100 explosive notes. So I can get a bigger boom with less, though it's more unstable. I'm looking into stuff that's more intense and more stable, but so far the explosive part of it isn't as strong. So I'm still looking. Seeing the boy had actually put some real thought into things, Kakashi, however, decided to caution him. Just be care. I know you heal fast, but pretty sure you can't regrow a limb. Flinching slightly as an irate fox declared that his absolutely could if needed. Naruto covered it up by nodded. No worries, sensei. As long as I keep the bottles sealed away, they're stable. He wasn't going to worry them about mentioning just how much of the stuff he had on him at any given time. That was probably a bad idea. Watching as a tired Shikamaru knocked out Kin using his own shadow, Naruto cheered for the lazy boy. Talk about the smart for his own good, Sasuke scoffed. Part of why he's so lazy. Missing Sakura and Ino coming to earlier, Sakura finally made her way back to the rail alongside her teammates, while went to join her team again. What did I miss? Sasuke shrugged. That sand girl beat 10-10 from Team 10, and Shikamaru beat the girl from the sound team. Looking up, Sasuke sighed. And you get to watch Naruto now, I guess. Throwing up his fist, Naruto cheered and leapt over the rail. All right, let's make it flashy. Dropping into a three-pointed crouch, Naruto marveled as he finally felt used to moving without his weights on, which meant he could go all out. Being approached by a smirking Kiba was throwing him off a bit. Look here, Akamaru. We got an easy win. No way the dobe who had to be saved by Sasuke and got his eye torn out is any match for us. Kiba pointed at the last Uzumaki. You might as well forfeit now before I humiliate you. Naruto bounced in place. Come say that to my face, Kiba. He had put in too much work to be belittled by his former classmate like that. All right, fine, begin. Their proctor jumped away, and without any preamble, Kiba was off like a shot to attack Naruto head-on. However, Naruto had been training day and night against clones that, whether he knew it or not, could move at the speed of thought. Then, between fighting Haku and later Orochimaru, Kiba was almost slow. Pivoting away from the overextended forward strike, Naruto thrust his own palm forward and into Kiba's gut, rocketing the boy off and into the far wall. Not slowing down, Naruto made his usual brace of a dozen clones. For underestimating me, we're gonna make this flashy. And the clones all blurred into movement. What the hell was the dash? Before Kita could fully stand, he was kicked in the side by a clone, which led into a palm thrust and a roundhouse, then an axe kick, and on it went. In the stands, everyone watched as Naruto and his clones bounced the Inuzuka around the arena floor. It so far wasn't so much a fight as Naruto making a mockery of his opponent, but eventually Akamaru was able to disable a few clones and earn Kiba a breather. What the hell? Looking up, Kiba came face to fist with another clone. Tell me how fire tastes. The clone exploded, tossing the genin and his dog away into the air, where they landed in a heap in the center of the arena. Naruto paused, waiting to see if the proctor would call it. Even though Kiba had insulted him, he was still a member of the Leaf and a teammate, sorta, so it wasn't like he wanted to kill him after all. And, after the proctor checked on him and called the match, Naruto cheered, "Woo yeah! Who's awesome?" Sakura sighed. "Should we tag team him and beat some humility into him?" Sasuke shook his head. Heads to hard, wouldn't work. Looking over, however, at a lavender-eyed girl, Sasuke smirked. Make Hinata or Ino do it. High-fiving the boy with a chuckle, they both congratulated a happy Naruto. Though Sakura had a question. Why didn't you use your sword at all? Naruto shrugged. Kubikirabocho is a sword of killing. At least against Leaf Neens, I don't want to draw it. It's meant for spilling blood, not for a friendly match. Nodding with his reasoning and watching the board, Sakura along with a few others all gasped at the names brought up. Oh no! Naruto looked up and frowned. Hinata and Niji? Wasn't that her cousin she mentioned once? looking down as they both entered the ring, and Niji immediately tried to convince Hinata to quit. Naruto didn't have good feelings about this. Why is he such an ass? Again, Kakashi spoke up, the topic a little older than the kids. Niji is of the branch house of the Hyuga clan. Hinata is from the main branch. To outsiders, it's like a servant-slash-master relationship, and Niji holds some resentment against Hinata. There's more to it, but I can't speak on it. That Niji somehow blamed Hinata for his father's death wasn't his business to tell, but they'd find out sooner or later with how chatty the Hyuga seemed to be. Watching Hinata hold her own, Naruto cheered loudly for the girl. "You got this, Hinata. Don't give up." Sasuke shook his head. "Be reasonable, though. Her cousin has an extra year of experience on him, and he's apparently a gentle fist prodigy. How is she supposed to hold up against that?" Naruto shrugged. "Even if she can't, she should still push herself. He's family. Not like he'd really hurt her in the end." Wanting to dispute that entirely but knowing now wasn't the time, Sasuke made note that Hinata's strikes were losing their power. "She's slowly down." Sakura nodded. "Yeah, but why? They haven't been fighting long." After watching Hinata retreat and listen to her cousin speak, the clearly tired girl pulled up her jacket sleeves, exposing the red marks from Juken strikes. "Guess that's that." Naruto shook his head. "That's bogus. She can't be out yet." Watching the whip off her jacket and throw it at her cousin's eyes, a tactic she had used against Naruto once during training, she got a few good hits in before he cousin freed himself and they were back at it, thought Niji was much harsher than before. "See, she still has some fight in her." Kakashi sighed. "Having the will to fight is all well and good, so long as you don't kill yourself trying to do so. Sometimes it's better to retreat and learn from your mistakes." Everyone watched as Niji connected with a strike to the side of Hinata's chest. They both had paused there before Hinata slumped to the ground and Niji backed away, calling for the proctor to call the match. And it was here that Naruto saw something in the girl that completely had his attention. Fighting and crawling her way to her feet, she took her stance again. She was barely standing and clearing out of the match, but she still had a smirk on her face that many would recognize as more at home or Naruto's face, and said something to her cousin. Enraged and boiling with chakra, the white-clothed boy turned and rocketed toward the girl, visible chakra wafting off his hand in a clearly deadly strike. Several things happened at once. Naruto was already moving, sword in hand and already swinging, by the time he touched down in front of Hinata, a hidden clone transforming in order to catch her. His sword swing was arching toward Niji's chest. Two jounin were holding Niji, one with bandages holding his hand while another had him in a chokehold. Kakashi had Naruto's sword wrapped up and anchored to the ground with ninja wire, while the proctor Hayate was holding his sword to Naruto's neck, who himself had frozen mid-step. "I suggest you both cool your heads." Hayate wasn't in the mood to play around at the moment. Of course, the main branch gets special treatment, shameful. Niji was already pulling away, a frown on his face. Naruto didn't say anything, drawing his sword away once Hayate pulled away from him and shook loose from the ninja wire before turning to his clone. "She's hurt bad, boss." Medics were already coming towards them, gently moving the clone away from moving the bleeding Hinata onto a stretcher and hurrying away with her. Naruto was staring at a point on the ground, a pool of her blood staring back at him. Idly he dismissed the clone. Weaklings should learn their place. Niji was being ushered away by his upset sensei. Kakashi was trying to do the same with an oddly quiet Naruto. Turning away from the girl's blood, sword still in hand, Naruto agreed. "You're right." Looking up at Niji with an odd tinge to his purple eye, Naruto was grinning. The weak should learn their place. Above them, the other members of Team 7 shivered when they saw the look in Naruto's eyes, and both silently offered up a prayer for Niji, the boy not realizing just what kind of enemy he just made. And as their sensei and Naruto rejoined them, leaving the kids to have a word with Guy, Naruto took there quietly, sword finally stowed away on his back. Both Sakura and Sasuke were looking for the correct thing to open up the conversation, but it was a contemplative Ino who walked over and joined them, standing shoulder to shoulder with Naruto for a moment. "She'll be all right, you know. She's a lot stronger than she looks." While they were rivals in love, they were still fellow Leaf Ninja and friends. And she'd never wish what just happened on a friend. Naruto nodded but didn't say a word at first, before he took a deep breath and let it out slowly, now watching the match between Gaara and Lee. I know, but to watch a family try to kill another over something they can't control, that's garbage. I'm gonna feed him my foot through his ass. Chuckling and nudging the boy again, the now short-haired Ino smiled as the light came back to his eyes. I'll pay to watch that, and I'm sure Hinata will too. Just don't kill him. Even if he deserves it, shouldn't his fate be up to her? Naruto nodded. You're right. I won't. Looking at the jade-eyed girl and grinned. Thanks, Ino-chan. You're the best. Turning to walk back to her team, Ino nodded with a smile. Oh, I know it. But you can praise me more all you want later, after we make sure Hinata is better. Saying her piece, Ino sashayed away. Sakura grinned. So what's the plan then? Since you moved up, you might get to fight Niji in the finals. Happy to see some life return to her teammate and friend, she was already feeling better for the boy. Naruto held up a finger as if imparting sage advice. Oh, you know, introduce him to the wonders of explosions. Maybe kick his teeth in. You don't need teeth to talk, at least not enough to apologize. Oh, Naruto was going to plan for this. Oh yes, he was. Watching the matching between the Sand Ninja and Guy's protege end in Gaara's favor brought the team down a bit, but the boy was still standing, which could have been worse. Another sensei had to get involved though, which considering the look Gaara had in his eye, no one was truly sure if that'd be enough. But after a few tense moments, Gaara relented and left the area floor. Sasuke turned back to his sensei, doing his best to ignore his teammates' muttering. So that's about it then? Who's left? Sakura answered before their sensei could. Choji and Dosu. Naruto, however, was ignoring everything around him, doing something he previously wouldn't have considered at this time. And that was exploring his feelings involving the two girls he had interacted with the most recently. That instant instinctual urge to protect Hinata had come out of nowhere. And while he wanted to ignore it and say it was nothing, Naruto knew that'd be a lie. They hadn't spent a lot of time together, but it was something that he had already built up some type feelings for her. Not sure what exactly love really entailed. He could say at least that he wanted to shield her from harm and didn't want to see her hurt. Looking over at the other half of the problem, Naruto looked at the platinum blonde who had tried to cheer him up. Would he have moved to protect her just as quickly in the same situation? Something told Naruto that he would have, which begged the question. Who could he talk to about this? Kakashi-sensei was out, he was a pervert. Maybe Gigi? No, he was a pervert too. Well, he also had been married, so that was a maybe instead. There was Irika-sensei, maybe he could help? He was good at answering questions. Nodding to himself and making a plan. Naruto almost missed it when Sakura shook him. Huh, was it? Rolling her eyes and mentally complaining about explosions and concussions. Sakura pointed down to the arena floor. Prelims are over. Gotta take a number to determine your lineup for the finals. Watching the boy nod and follow after Sasuke, Sakura walked over to Ino, an idea in her mind about her own hair. Naruto barely paid attention to what was about to happen, only doing as he was told when prompted to pull a ball from the box provided to him by Hayate. Seeing a number 1 on the ball, Naruto waited for everyone else to finish and Hayate to write everyone's names on a whiteboard. And it was there, seeing his name next to Niji's, that all the feelings he had felt over the last 30 minutes slammed into his chest. The grin that was stretching over his face was far more feral than anyone thought should be on a human face. Above them, Kakashi's sidewall guy looked at him with concern. Don't worry, Kakashi. I'll set the boy straight and make sure he shows restraint during their match. Naruto won't come to much harm. Kakashi shook his head while Tenten and Team Up, who were eavesdropping, listened on. No, the opposite in fact. Might want to convince Niji to train like hell this month. 'Cause considering how Naruto is feeling right now. Kakashi watched as unnoticed to Naruto or anyone close to him. His hand was opening and closing as if itching to grab his sword. I'm pretty sure you might want to start planning for a funeral. Chapter 8. Bright and early, Naruto was back to training his physical body while multitudes of clones trained in both chakra control and technique usage. During the exam against Orochimaru and later against Kiba, Naruto puzzled over why it seemed his clones had an easier time of sneaking up on opponents. After some trial and error, he figured out what the big drawback of the Shunshin was, and how it was negated with the use of clones. Along with his newest chakra control exercise, the kunai balancing skill, he was doing his best to advance past his limits. Struggling with his current set of push-ups after reinstalling his weight seals, Naruto thought on what Kakashi-sensei had told him yesterday. It had been an actual somber Kakashi that had pulled aside his bright student. He had explained that while he could train Sasuke, both because of his Sharingan and because of their similar styles and affinities, that left Naruto in the lurch because he couldn't train both of them. However, while his initial thought was to grab the best on paper instructor his could, his sensei instead promised that he would have someone very important train him for the finals. Naruto was beyond bummed out, but realized that if Kakashi-sensei had chosen him instead, that would have left Sasuke out too. One or the other, someone would have been without their preferred teacher, and so deciding it was for the best of the team, Naruto nodded and told his sensei it was okay and he wasn't upset. Because his sensei had explained everything to him properly, he wasn't feeling kicked to the curb or abandoned, which was a plus. Which again brought us to the present. A hot and sweaty Naruto working his body to the bone while clones multiplied his training and control. He had a hole to stomp in Niji's ass after all. Couldn't slack on that. On the other side of the village and near the bathhouses, a silver-haired pervert was giggling as he peeped through a hole in the divider fence of the women's bath. Dressed in reds and greens, standing on traditional geta and a horned forehead protector oiled and shined, Jiraiya of the Sannin was doing what his life called out for him to do. And while he would always call it his research, nearly every woman who caught him would never fail to beat the tar out of him and call him the pervert that he was. Though today was slightly different, if only because the chakra signature that coalesced next to him was somewhat familiar. Turning away and standing, Jiraiya took in the sight of the masked ninja known as Kakashi. Nodding with a grin and a wave of his notepad, the aging ninja was still in a good mood. "Hey there, Kakashi? Looking for me to sign one of your books?" Tempted, but here on a different mission, Kakashi shook his head. "Actually, I need some help, if you wouldn't mind." "Ha!" Taking a moment while he put his book away, Jiraiya focused more on the sensei of Team 7. "I'm all ears, what is it?" Kakashi took a deep breath, readying himself for this conversation, and after a quick feel to see no one else was around short of the women in the bath, he continued. "I need your help with Naruto. Could you take care of him this month?" Immediately losing interest, the old man had his book back out and was turning back to his stealthily made hole. "He's your student, that's your department. I don't deal with brats." Having a feeling that that was what he was going to start with, Kakashi waved a hand. "It's just a month. Both Sasuke and Naruto did exceptionally well, and I can only train one. Since the Sandaime told me you'd be in town for the exams, I figured I could ask for your help. For the Chunin exams? Kid doesn't need my talents for that. Foist him off on that other brat. Ebisu, was it? He's got a decent head on his shoulders." Jiraiya was starting to get annoyed with the masked and chronically late ninja. Frowning and starting to get upset himself, Kakashi folded his hands behind his back. "And yet I'm not asking Ebisu. I'm asking for your help." He knew he was going to cross a line soon, something he never wanted to have to do. But he owed his students the effort, especially this one. Tone going cold, no longer writing or seeing the previously wonderful view before him, Jiraiya gave Kakashi a harsh side-eye. "And who are you to ask me for anything?" Jiraiya had been around for a long time, and while Kakashi had done well in the war, Jiraiya had to do and survive a lot worse. "You owe it to his parents, at the least. They made you his godfather, after all." Jiraiya refused to move, only a solid iron will of control keeping him from grabbing Kakashi and beating some sense into him. Who the hell gave him the right to judge him? Did he have any idea what kind of guilt he lived with, both because of that boy's parents and his own role in leaving him in this village? "That was low, even for you, for this village, that was low." Kakashi shrugged, uncaring of the guilt surrounding an old man who only wanted to run away from his own sins. "You made a promise. I'm merely asking if you're willing to actually follow through." Yeah, Kakashi knew he was headed straight to hell one day, but he'd gladly go if he could make sure these kids made it. Still looking without seeing anything in front of him, Jiraiya finally nodded slowly. "I'm assuming he'll be at Team 7's training ground? I'll meet him in a few days. Gotta settle some things with the old man." Turning a cold eye to Kakashi, the elder ninja made the younger a promise. Bring them up again and I'll remind you why I'm so legendary. Kakashi shrugged and turned away. It's not my memory you have to live with. He was gone in a swirl of leaves a moment later, leaving an already worn-out Toad to think on his words. Back on the Team 7 training grounds, Naruto had finally finished his physical training and was now working with the oversized cleaver that was his Kubikirabocho. Up and down slashes, side to side and diagonally. While Naruto did not have a teacher, he had at least picked up some advice from actually users about getting started on some basics, which he would do for hours at a time, until his arms burned and he couldn't lift the sword anymore. But today was slightly different as one of his usual visitors was finally showing her face. Yoo-hoo, Whiskers! Long time no see. Ino had made her appearance, in her usual battle attire and now shorter hair pulled back into a high ponytail again. Still oddly without her usual bandage wraps, but Naruto assumed that was probably because she wasn't on a mission. But she had a large container behind her in her hands. Hey Ino-chan, what are you up to today? Ino smiled and helped up the large to go transport from Ichiraka's ramen stand. I figured you'd be here training and probably hadn't eaten anything yet, right? So I'm bringing the ramen to you. Placing the container under a tree next to where Naruto had tossed his jacket, she was unprepared for the hug she got. Were his arms always so strong and corded with muscle? You are a goddess given human form, Inoheim. Thank you. Looking at the container and letting the girl go, Naruto paused for only a moment before turning to the blushing girl. Wanna eat with me? Somehow her foggy brain at first only hearing wanna eat me, and she was very confused though her blush skyrocketed. But she took a moment to think that this was Naruto and put the missing word in there. Sure yeah, I'll have a bowl. Sitting down with the boy as he opened the carrier and spied the 6 waiting bowls of ramen, Naruto took a veggie ramen to give to the girl before taking a pork bowl for himself. Saying a quick prayer, he was off to the races. Ino watched him for only a short while, breaking apart the provided travel chopsticks before a thought entered her mind at the boy being out here all alone. You're not training with your team? That confident about the exams? Naruto shook his head, already halfway through this bowl. Kakashi-sensei can't train us both, Sasuke and me. So sensei is going to find a new sensei to help me out while he helps Sasuke. Taking a moment to finish off the bowl and drink down the broth, and was already on to the next one. Training always made him hungry. Ino, however, saw a flaw in all this. Well, that sucks. I'm sorry you have to give up your sensei for a month. Think you'll be okay for the finals? Naruto nodded through a mouthful of noodles, though he did swallow before talking. Ayamne had beat him more than once about manners around girls. It's okay. I'm not mad. And honestly, I'm not too worried. I could wreck Niji now. But after a month of intense training? Oh, they'll be naming the crater I make with him after me. Naruto knew without a doubt he was going to wipe the floor with Niji. He'd still train, however, since crazy opponents were always waiting in the wings. Again, he thought of Orochimaru and the mountain-wide gap between them. Impressed with the boy's upbeat attitude, Ino calmly ate her own noodles and just enjoyed the time with her crush. The sunny blonde just had a way of brightening the day and making things better, which, now that she was over the broody Uchiha, she could see as an absolute delight. Sure, the edgy boy had his own mystery to him, but there was always a cold distance to him. Ino wanted to enjoy the warmth of this blonde before her, unsure, however, if that would be forever not. They both sat in silence for a while, finishing the food and chatting with each other for the next hour before Naruto groaned and rolled back to his feet, stashing all of the empty bowls back into the carrier. Naruto had a soft and thoughtful smile on his face as he watched the girl who he had conflicting feelings for. I appreciate you coming and checking up on me, Ino-chan. Don't worry about the carrier. I can take it back after my training. Ino stood and nodded, turning back to the village. Okay. I'll entrust that to you. Here Ino paused for a moment, an unsure look on her face that did not look normal to Naruto. But before he could ask her about it, she was looking up at him again with her usual confidence. Naruto, would you appreciate someone making you an actual lunch? Not just ramen. Naruto was caught flat-foot and nodded slowly, never having someone think of that before. I mean, I've never had that. So, yeah, that'd be great. Nodding, the girl was all grins again. Then all this month don't you worry about your lunches. If you're here, I'll bring you lunch. Got it? Seeing the boy nod dumbly, Ino raced off. Good luck, Naruto. And hey, I'm gonna go visit Hinata the day after tomorrow. Wanna come with me? Seeing the boy nod quickly, she waved as she left with a wink. All right then, till later. And she was gone, bounding away and through the trees back to the village. Naruto was grinning as he turned back to his clones with a whoop. All right, time to live up to those expectations. We're gonna train even harder, OSU. All of the clones chorused with him, and he was back to working his body to the bone. Naruto groaned, the last few days on a repeat of wake up, eat, train, have lunch with Inohime, no longer simply Chan as she expressed she loved being called a princess and she was feeding him for free, train some more, and then head home for dinner alone and pass out asleep. And today would have been no different if not for two things. Kakashi had sent him a message saying his new sensei would be at the training ground today, so be there early, which that threw him for a loop. But Naruto was happy that his sensei had followed through with what he said he would do. Now if only later he'd get to see Hinata-chan with Inohime and the day would be complete. Especially if he was able to show off his latest sealing book to the girls, which he might have left at home. Adjusting his sword and scratching his stomach, Naruto came to their training ground to the sight of a very tall but oddly dressed old man sitting in the middle of the clearing, a notepad in hand and writing away. As Naruto came closer, however, the book snapped shut and their eyes met for the first time. Something odd passed behind the old man's eyes for a moment, like he recognized him or something. Well, Naruto was pretty awesome like that, though hopefully it didn't have anything to do with one of his pranks. Raising a hand, Naruto at least started out polite. Yo, I'm Naruto. Are you my temp sensei? Scoffing at the brat, Jiraiya didn't want to be like his other teammate, but he felt like he was going to need a drink today. Temp sensei? Temp? Why when I'm done with you, you'll want me full time? For I am Jiraiya, taken aback and scratching his head. Naruto gave the sage a confused look. And what is a Jiraiya? Did they teach these kids nothing these days? This must be corrected at once. Paper fans coming from somewhere, Jiraiya began his dance. Why I am the ultimate man of mystery, feared by my enemies from the north to the south, loved by women across the world from the east to the west, trained by the legendary toads of Mount Mayaboku. I am Jiraiya the Gallant, of the Densetsu no Sannin. With a puff of smoke, the old toad sage was posing ridiculously on top of a toad bigger than he was. Naruto looked left, then looked right, before finally looking at the summoned creature with a pitying look. Did he really summon you just to show off? He does this pretty often, we're used to it. Hey, I'm trying to be impressive. It's impressive. Sure. Keep telling yourself that. I'd be more impressed if I hadn't blown up a Sannin once already. Wait, thinking about it. Naruto had heard the name Jiraiya from somewhere. Where was it though? Wait. Kakashi's and Gigi's dirty books. You write that porn. It's not porn. It's erotica and it's art. How dare this wet behind-the-ears boy belittle his craft? Art? It's smut. You're just a pervert as if. Jiraiya puffed himself up, back on the ground and grinning with pride. I'm a super pervert, that was it. Naruto was officially surrounded by perverts. Maybe he should check Sakura's or Sasuke's pouches for little porn books too. With a sigh, Naruto nodded in resignation. From now and forever, you are pervy sage. Come on. At least give me Toad Sage or Jiraiya-sama, or hey, how about Dash? Cutting the old man off, Naruto created 3 clones before performing his Oryoku no Jutsu. He wasn't putting up with a pervert this early in the morning. He'd have to hunt down the Sandaime for training scrolls instead. Jiraiya watched the flawless execution of the clone technique before being floored by the sheer talent of the boy before him. The 3 beauties that were before him were so artfully placed. 2 of them pressed against each other, chests hiding their peaks from view while the third was sitting on the ground. Blonde pigtails hid their treasures from view, but the third was slowly opening long luscious legs too, and in a poof of smoke they were gone. And with them a wealth of inspiration. Yup, definitely pervy sage. I'm out. Wait. Hold on. I think we can help each other. Holding a hand out to stop the boy, Jiraiya chuckled. Why, I did train the 4th Hokage. That has to count for something, doesn't it? I do have a lot of knowledge and skill that you don't. Now skeptical, Naruto frowned. You trained the fourth? No way. Jiraiya again pulled out with pride. Know anyone else that can summon toads? Toads are picky, won't let just anyone sign their contract, and right now that includes myself and the fourth. Unsaid was that he was the only one alive to be on the contract, but he'd be working to change that. First, he needed to make sure the kid had the chakra for it. Now Naruto was interested. There wasn't much in a book that would get him reading for long. But history about the Hokages was one such topic. And the knowledge that the fourth Hokage could summon toads was in the history books, though the bit about them being picky summons was new. Okay, fine, I'll give it a go. Snapping his fingers, Jiraiya was back to smiles. Great! Now, first we gotta get you trained up. First we'll practice chakra control with water walking and dash, and once again Naruto was walking away. Hey, wait a minute, what's wrong? Naruto sighed as wordless, he walking out onto the stream that meandered through the field. There he stood on the flowing water, letting the current push him before coming back on land. Yeah, I can do that already. Pausing and realizing that while the Hokage had been talking about the boy and he may have been spacing out, that might have been a mistake. Okay, well, if you can do that then you have the control, so next we need to see your capacity. Naruto raised a bored hand. Look, a lot of my style revolves around blowing things up. Do you have anything that can help with that? Again being thrown off his stride, Jiraiya had to think about that one. While it was much too early to teach the boy the Rasengan, he was trying to get him interested in the toads. One of which was still behind Jiraiya and enjoying being ignored for now, though he felt like he could help out his summoner this once. Toads have flammable oil. That piqued Naruto's interest. How flammable? Seeing bait, Jiraiya made a show of hoping back on the toad's head. Let's aim for the training post. Gimme some oil. And while his companion spit forth a stream of oil, Jiraiya let loose an equal stream of fire, igniting the oil into a yellow, red, and white stream of heat and death and incinerated the training posts in seconds. Finishing their combination, the toad finally dispelled himself and Jiraiya dropped to his feet with a grin. How's that for useful? Almost literal stars in his eyes. Naruto was looking between the training posts and the toad sage. Okay, you may be a pervert, but what do I gotta do for sign the contract for toads? 'Cause I need that oil. Oh, the things I can do with that. I wonder if it mixes well. Can you seal it? Fufu dash. Edging away from the suddenly creepy kid, Jiraiya was a little concerned that he laughed just like his mother when she was scheming. But the contract was his birthright, so summoning a new toad who vomited forth the contract school, Jiraiya laid it at their feet and unfurled it. And there at the end, just after Jiraiya's name, sat the fourth Hokage in his glory. Though while Jiraiya's name was glowing, the fourth's was darkened, signifying his death. Naruto assumed. Jiraiya motioned to his hand. Draw some blood and sign your name, then add your fingerprints as shown. From there we will work on the hand signs, speed, and then practice. This takes a lot of chakra, so I don't expect anything impressive yet. But we've got a month to work on it. Seeing Naruto nod as he signed as instructed, the scroll was quickly wrapped up and sent back to the toads. So, hand seals. Jiraiya shook his head and turned to leave. Just in case, let's get a little further from the village. There's another training ground we should use. Naruto nodded. Oh, okay. Hold on. Crossing his fingers and concentrating, Naruto made a pair of clones who nodded and made themselves comfortable in the clearing. After this was done, Naruto trudged along after the safe. What was that about? Curious use of clones that. Why just leave too? Naruto reached up to fiddle with the handle of his sword, loosing himself in thought as he began making plans for toad oil. Oh, Inohime usually grabs me for lunch, but I promised her if I wasn't going to be here that I'd leave a clone for her to let her know. I left it today though because we're supposed to go see Hinata-chan in the hospital. She got hurt during the prelims. Not even thinking about the old pervert anymore, he was mentally calculating how much nitro he would need to buy later. Inohime? Hinata-chan. Was the boy already playing the field? He was so proud already. Well, don't you worry, kid. I'll make sure to have you back by lunchtime. But let's hurry, just in case. He didn't want to stand in the way of young love after all. Nor his research. Following behind the now tree-hopping sage, Naruto somehow felt like he was missing something. But hey, he was getting training and his teacher seemed like he knew his stuff, even if he was a pervert. There had to be some relation between being super powerful and being a pervert. And after 10 minutes of running, they came upon a training ground behind the Hokage monument. A wide open space that could probably house the Hokage tower. Naruto turned to the man next to him with a grin. "All right, old man, what you got?" Jiraiya grinned himself and got to work. "Follow along. No chakra for now, just practice. It's only 5 seals. Boar, dog, bird, monkey, ram." Working through them together for a few minutes, Jiraiya sat back as Naruto practiced the seals over and over. And after a few minutes to acknowledge the kid had it down, Jiraiya motioned to the ground. "Perform the seals and place your hand on the ground. When you practice with it, you'll get a feel for how much chakra to use in order to summon certain toads. But for now, just use as much as you can. Again, I don't expect much from a kid. O ye of little faith." Naruto, however, was ready to wipe the smug look off the sage's face. So, tapping on the cage of his mind, Naruto demanded rent. "Want to show this old bastard what we can do?" The QB snorted but relented. "You've been good on your word, training and relying on your skill and not my power, so for this I will allow it. Try not to lose yourself." Naruto felt the odd power rush through him along with his own chakra. If he had to describe it in that moment, he'd said it was hot, angry, liquid fire. And as he summoned up both his chakra and a slightly high amount of the foxes, it was a wide-eyed Jiraiya who noticed too late and failed to stop the boy. Kuchios no jutsu, and the clearing erupted in smoke. Waving a hand and coughing, the old sage was terrified of what he was about to find. Because if the kid just summoned Bunta before he had had a chance to warn him, oh, his head might really roll. But as he was looking up and the smoke cleared, there was no giant mountain-sized toad. "Jiraiya boyo, why'd you summon just me? Where's Ma?" Smoke clearing and giving everyone a clear view, a aging white-haired toad was sitting comfortably in Naruto's hair, looking just as confused as the boy himself. Pervy sage didn't summon you, I did." Naruto was looking up at the toad, not quite sure what to make of it. He had used enough chakra to make him a little lightheaded, but maybe Jiraiya was right after all, he was just a kid. Looking down at the boy and hopping to the ground, Pa turned to look him over. "Oh, you're the Uzumaki boy. I didn't think you'd be able to summon one of us anytime soon, but this is great. Why, we'll get to your training soon enough, you tadpole." Mwahahaha. The old toad laughing and croaking. Naruto was at least willing to be polite to elderly that he didn't know. "Well, just curious, can you spit oil like the other toads? I actually wanted to use some for an experiment." Pa nodded. "Sure can. Hold on a moment." Gathering some chakra and making a few seals, the sage toad slammed a hand into the ground, making a pot of earth that he thin spit oil into. Pot easily half the height of Naruto himself, the small toad still filled it quickly. "Where does it all come from? Trade secret tadpole. Now, you used a little too much chakra there. Skipped right past the boss and straight to me, one of the sages. So practice some more. Get a feel for us and we'll meet again soon. I'll let Bunta know you're a good kid so he doesn't haze you." With a wave and a cackle, Pa was gone. He was nice. Naruto was already sealing the pot into a scroll. Oh, he was so ready to get playing. Frustrated and now free to explode, the old sage did so. "Wait a minute. I was tested and hazed for days, and you summoned Pa on the first go. That's it. Me and Sarutobi are gonna have it out. He left a lot out about you." Turning and making to leave the clearing, Jiraiya turned a hard eye back to the boy. "Meet me here at this training ground from now on in the mornings. If I'm not here, start your normal routine. You can invite your girlfriend too." Saying his piece, Jiraiya left in a swirl of leaves. Blushing, Naruto was shaking a fist in the direction of the departed sage. "Inohime isn't my girlfriend. Not like she'd be interested in an idiot like him. No, he had his beautiful explosions and that was enough for now." Currently without his sword, Naruto and a humming Ino both were in quiet moods as they made their way into the Konoha hospital. Naruto was still distracted by what the old pervert had said to him, trying hard not to imagine what it would be like with Inohime as a girlfriend. He barely knew what it meant to have a girlfriend anyway. Ino, on the other hand, was just happy to be spending some time with the blonde. Her own training had taken an uptick since the end of the preliminaries, so she hadn't been able to join him like before. She'd have to find the time later on, like after the finals. They were directed to the ninja wing of the hospital towards the upper floors, where they both were overwhelmed by the smell of power cleaners and antiseptics. It was quieter on these floors as well, not like the lower levels, and that probably spoke to the fact that this was a clan heiress that was injured. Something Naruto didn't think about often until right now as they came upon her room. At least she didn't have any of those stuffy Hyuga guards here. Opening the door for Ino to go first, Naruto walked in behind her to get his first glimpse of his injured friend. Hinata was sitting upright at the least while reading from a scroll. Her bed was against the wall with a window that allowed the sun in to give her reading light. Naruto was happy to see that there weren't a ton of machines hooked up to her, but his anger spiked a tad when he noticed that she was breathing rather heavily. Think happy thoughts, Naruto, and focus on breathing. Niji would get his. Ino was all smiles, however, as she swung herself into a chair next to the quiet girl. Hey there, Hinata-san. We figured today would be a good day to come visit and grace you with our bright and radiant presence. Leaning forward with a grin, Ino poked the bedridden girl in the leg. So how about it? Feel better? Friends first and rivals second. Ino was putting that lesson to good use lately. Smiling softly and looking up to both of her visitors, the injured girl nodded. I do feel better. It's so boring here all by myself for most of the day. That Kurenai-sensei and her teammates had been the only ones who had visited wasn't something she was going to mention. That would spark a new wave of worries between them. Putting on a smile and unsealing a set of bright yellow lilies already set in their own vase, Naruto walked forward and put them on the windowsill. It's not much, but wanted to get you something so we could brighten up the place. I've been in here enough to know just how cruddy it can be. Stepping back and admiring his work for a moment, he cocked his head to the side as he saw a blush on the girl's face. You okay, Hinata-chan? Want me to go find a nurse? It was Ino who smacked the boy on an arm. Relax. She's fine. One of the monitors would be going off, wouldn't it, if something was wrong? Throwing Hinata a bone, Ino eventually pulled the boy back to stand next to her, smiling much more and nodding to the boy to calm him down. Hinata bowed slightly. Thank you, Naruto-kun. They're wonderful. She stared at the flowers for a moment before turning back to her friends with a question. While I appreciate the visit, don't you need to train for the finals, Naruto? Shaking his head, Naruto raised an arm and flexed, though the jacket hid anything. I'm all good. I've still got plenty of time, and you both remind me that it's good to take a break from time to time. Plus, currently he was still pretty wiped out. Summoning that sage toad used a lot of chakra, and without the fox he'd probably be passed out already. Giggling at the boy's antics and relaxing further into her pillow, Hinata then turned to Ino. How's helping Shikamaru-san with training going? Ino groaned and threw an arm over the back of her seat. That lazy bones hasn't changed up much of anything. If he isn't cloud-gazing or napping, he's playing Go with Asuma-sensei. About the only time I get to have fun is with either of you two, so you need to hurry and get better. While she was joking around for the other girl's sake, Ino was partially serious as well. If she didn't get back to her regular excitement, she was going to start borrowing Naruto's clones to annoy her team. But the real question is, how are you, Hinata-san? They were here so they could check on the injured girl after all. Hinata patted her chest softly. They healed what they could, but I will need to be on bed rest for a few weeks. I'll be up and on light duty after that. Stifling a cough as this was the most she had talked in a while, the normally shy girl grinned. Guess that gives you time to catch up. Grinning at the challenge was an Ino who was happy to still see some fire in the girl. Oh, just you wait. I'll be bouncing you around the training field in no time. After she figured out how to counter the gentle fist. Feeling like he was suddenly forgetting something, Naruto proceeded to pat himself down, while both girls looked at him curiously. After another minute of this and a frantic look growing on his face, Naruto finally turned to the door. I forgot I had something else I wanted to give you. I'll be right back, I swear. Before either girl could stop him, Naruto was out the door and gone. Footsteps echoing down the hallway. Ino sighed and shook her head while turning back to her friend. I think all the clone usage is scrambling his brain. Nodding, Hinata smiles. He tries really hard at everything he does. That's all. Hands again resting on her scroll and drawing Ino's attention. The other girl asked about it. "What's on the scroll? Looks intense." Hinata held it up for Ino to see. A great line of names scrawled on it. "Recently something has been bothering me, and with all this time I have on my hands, I decided I could start looking into it." Bringing the scroll back into her lap with a sigh, Hinata traced the names. "I was looking into the Uzumaki clan." Wait, hold up. Uzumaki clan? Like Naruto's clan? At Hinata's nod, the blonde sat back in confusion. Why go through that? Hinata began to fiddle with her fingers while searching for the correct wording. Naruto-kun obviously didn't come from nowhere. He had to have had parents, and I know it bothers him that he doesn't know anything about them. So I thought maybe I'd look his family up, put together a family tree for him so he could at least know the history. It was now, however, that a frown began to grow on her face. Except the records for the Uzumaki suddenly drop off about 150 years ago. Throat dry, Hinata reached for a glass of water that had been provided for her when such a need arose. Ino pondered over the problem as well. If Naruto was actually an Uzumaki, and the Uzumaki were a clan that was a part of the Leaf Village, then why did their history just stop all of a sudden? That didn't make sense at all. But 150 years would mean not just his parents, or at least one of them, but also a set of grandparents are missing at least as well. Why would a family line be scrubbed from the records? Hinata had finished drinking and was putting her glass back. I don't know. It was Naruto that gave me a partial clue of where to look next though. You know, the training scrolls in the library. Seeing Ino nod, she continued. Apparently Naruto has found a few with the donator's last name either partially or fully deleted, which isn't normal procedure. Hinata's voice grew quiet as she put forth her real worry. Something big is surrounding Naruto's family past, possibly big enough to scrub everything about them from every record office in the village. Ino now picked up on where this might be going. The only other clan that has happened with, or at least close to it, was the Uchiha clan. Sure, we know who they are, but that's because it happened so recently. But you can already see some information regarding them has been scrubbed or concealed. Looking up with wide eyes was an Ino who wasn't sure how to continue. Do you think someone wiped the Uzumaki out? Hinata shrugged. I don't know. The fact that Naruto was completely alone, just like Sasuke, and had such a close relationship with the Hokage, which was usual as well. I think Naruto's clan was a lot more important that we know. It's all guessing though. Nodding and conceding the point, Hinata rolled up her scroll. Yes, but if it's true, it's where my current idea is forming. Waving a hand, Ino leaned forward. Well, don't leave a girl hanging. Lay it on me. Village conspiracies were fun, but creepy. She needed something more light-hearted. But the quiet girl shook her head. I don't want to say it out loud, just in case I jinx it. Here she looked at her love rival with a smirk. So for now you better work hard, because I'm going to monopolize Naruto when I get out of here. While the shy girl was still herself, Ino was slowly bringing out more of an outspoken personality in her. Pausing before laughing a little louder than polite, Ino grinned and flicked her hair. Oh, you're on. I'll have Naruto wrapped around my finger before you get out of here. As the two girls proceeded to trade barbs back and forth before an excited Naruto finally returned with a sealing book signed by Kushina Uzumaki again. Their afternoon would continue with some peace until the two healthy teens were forced to leave. And while both Ino and Naruto felt like they had done a good job of cheering up their friend, it was a frowning Hinata that wasn't completely satisfied at the new piece of the puzzle that had been dropped on her.